Chapter 926. Before he started cultivating, Yishang gave little Kong some more spirit stones. Yishang, actually, your 3 fiancés can also go to the 70th level and undergo time acceleration cultivation. They all have ultimate bodies and can withstand the pressure of the power of time. The main thing is that after you became a saint, my ability has also strengthened and I can control energy better, Lil Kong said. Alright, I will also bring the members of the god-slaying squad in so that their cultivation will be smoother, Night Sorrow said. Yes, but you will need spirit stones to support it, Xiaofan said. Speaking of spirit stones, Night Sorrow had a headache. Recently, he had not obtained many spirit stones, but he had consumed a lot. Just as Night Sorrow was rubbing his forehead, the 9 regions origin energy told Night Sorrow that he actually had a source of spirit stones. The spirit stones inside the 9 regions world could not be excavated, as it would affect the development of the 9 regions world. However, at the edge of the 9 regions world, the turbulent flow of energy passed through the spatial barrier and formed spirit stones in some places. This situation made Night Sorrow very happy. Under the guidance of his 9 realms origin energy avatar, Night Sorrow left Sky City and flew to the edge of the realm sea, arriving at the region where the spatial barrier was. Flying along the spatial barrier, he would excavate some spirit stones when he came across a place. However, no matter how many spirit stones there were, Night Sorrow would only excavate 1/3 of them. This would not affect the growth of the spirit stones. In half a month, Night Sorrow flew for millions of miles and excavated thousands of top-grade spirit stones. Night Sorrow did not put the spirit stones into his storage ring. Instead, he put them in the storage space on the first floor of the space-time pagoda. Night Sorrow was not greedy. Although the 9 regions origin energy said that it was fine, he felt that it was enough. There was no need to continue excavating. Those were the resources and wealth of the 9 regions world. After settling the matter of spirit stones, Night Sorrow returned to Sky City. There were still close to 2 months before his parents' wedding. After Night Sorrow stored the members of the god-slaying team into the space-time pagoda, he went to the top floor of the space-time pagoda and began cultivating. Nearly 2 months had passed in the real world. Night Sorrow had been cultivating in the space-time pagoda for 1.5 years. He had raised his quintessential energy cultivation to the late 9-star saint stage, and cultivated the myriad Dao's treasured tome to the late 9-star golden body stage before coming out of seclusion. He had also used up all of his 4-clawed silver dragon's blood essence. Night Sorrow didn't intend to kill the 4-clawed silver dragon. After all, it was a life form of the 9-domain world. As the ruler of the 9-domain world, it wasn't appropriate for him to kill the life forms of the 9-domain world for his own needs. Yu Qing glared at Night Sorrow. You little rascal, if you didn't come out, I would have crushed your messaging crystal. Didn't I tell you the time of your wedding? There are still a few days left. Many people have arrived at the Night Moon City. Your grandfather, great-grandfather, great-great-aunt, and great-great-uncle are all receiving guests. Mother, don't be angry. I came out of seclusion. Night Sorrow hurriedly apologized. In a while, come with me to meet your grandfather and grandmother, as well as your uncle and cousin. They were in the Night Moon Dynasty camp some time ago. Because you were busy, I didn't bring you to meet them. They wanted to meet you, but I didn't let them. After all, it's not appropriate for the elders to meet the younger generation, Yu Qing said. That's my fault. I found out that the elders of Beiyu City were in the Night Moon Dynasty camp. However, I happened to have something to do, so I didn't meet them. Night Sorrow said embarrassedly. On the next chapter, when he found the members of the assassination hall, he also found the people of Beiyu City. However, he had to deal with the matters of the underworld and had forgotten about meeting them. It's fine. It's fine. Everyone knows that you're busy. No one is unhappy about this. Let's go now. Here's some good wine. Your grandfather doesn't have any other hobbies besides drinking. Here's some heart-cleansing tea. No matter what, you have to give your grandmother some gifts. Yu Qing had already prepared the gifts. Mother, I'm sorry. Night Sorrow felt apologetic. What are you saying? Yu Qing helped her son tidy up his robes. Do you need me to bring Chuyu and the others? Night Sorrow asked. There's no need for that for now. You'll be getting married in 2 days. At that time, we'll formally meet and acknowledge each other. Yu Qing thought for a moment and did not intend to interrupt Sikong Chuyu and the others' cultivation. Under Yu Qing's lead, Night Sorrow and Yu Qing arrived at Sky City's guest house. Within the guest house's courtyard stood an old man with a long beard. He had a lion's nose and a tiger's mouth. He had a dignified expression and was currently cursing someone. It was for no other reason than that his son had beaten him in chess. The old man was none other than Yu Tianhe, the city lord of Beiyu City, which was under the influence of Night Moon Dynasty. "Father, your temper is still so bad," Yu Qing said with a smile. "If Yu Kong was like you, I wouldn't be so angry. That bastard. I made a wrong move. I didn't even loosen my grip on him before he started messing around with me." Beiyu City's city lord, Yu Tianhe, glared at a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man had a striking appearance. His appearance was similar to Yu Qing's, but he had an additional masculine aura. He stood there like an unsheathed sword. He was Beiyu City's only junior city lord, Yu Qing's younger brother, and Night Sorrow's uncle, Yu Kong. But now, he was being scolded so badly that his nose was on the line. "Night Sorrow, this is your grandfather, and this is your uncle," introduced Yu Qing. Night Sorrow greets grandfather, greets uncle. Night Sorrow bowed to the two of them. "Good, very good. I wanted to meet you a while ago, but it wasn't a good time to greet you. Sit." Yu Tianhe's expression changed very quickly. Just a moment ago, he had been cursing angrily, but now he was smiling brightly. "Grandfather, sit. Uncle, sit too." Night Sorrow helped his mother sit down before sitting down himself. After Yu Tianhe sat down, he directly yelled at Yu Kong, "You bastard, I told you to sit." Yu Kong, who was about to sit down, could only stand up awkwardly. He had made the right move, but the result was wrong. He could only endure his father's anger. "Grandfather, this is the good wine my mother prepared for you. Try it and calm down." Night Sorrow stood up, opened the wine jar, and poured a bowl for Yu Tianhe. "I left for a while, but you're still angry." At this time, a white-haired woman walked into the guest house with a walking stick. Behind her were two women in their 20s. "Madam, you're back." "I'm not angry. It's just that little bastard." Yun Tianhe stood up and pointed at Yu Kong. "He's a little bastard, but you're an old bastard. Aren't you afraid your grandson will laugh at you?" The white-haired woman glared at Yu Tianhe before nodding at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow greets grandmother. Night Sorrow bowed to the white-haired woman. "Don't be so polite, and don't be offended. Beiyu City's Yu family only looks like a family when grandmother is here. If grandmother isn't here, the family will turn upside down. Yu Tianhe, don't you think so?" The white-haired woman sat down and yelled at Yu Tianhe. "Speak." Chapter 927. "Madam is right. The Yu family needs Madam to oversee it," said Yu Tianhe with a smile. "Yu Kong, don't you know what kind of person your father is? After suffering 100 times, he still doesn't learn his lesson," scolded the white-haired woman. "You're right, mother. But father says he's #1 in Beiyu City when it comes to chess." "I don't accept that," said Yu Kong. "You don't accept that? I'll deal with you later." Yu Tianhe glared at his son. After listening to their conversation, Night Sorrow was speechless. Fortunately, his mother was like his grandmother. If she was like his grandfather and uncle, he would have died. But with his grandmother around, this family was still very harmonious. In addition, Yi Shang also knew that Beiyu City belonged to the Yu family. However, the person who had the most authority was the wife of the city lord, Pan Jie, who was also his maternal grandmother. His maternal grandmother was also the strongest person in Beiyu City. "Night Sorrow, it was your mother who went home to visit her family that led to the accident. I'm very sorry that you had to wander outside for so many years. I've sent people to search for you, but there was no news." Pan Jie looked at Night Sorrow apologetically. "Grandmother, you're exaggerating. Night Sorrow has been living well these past few years," said Night Sorrow as he stood up. "Sit down. These are your two cousins, Yu Xiaofan and Yu Xiaolu." Pan Jie introduced the two women behind her to Night Sorrow. "Yi Shang greets my two elder cousins." Yi Shang cupped his hands in salute to his two elder cousins. "Grandmother, with the commander cousin, we can do whatever we want when we go out," said Yu Xiaolu with a smile. At the same time, she sized up Night Sorrow. "What did I let you suffer in the past?" Yu Kong looked at his daughter with dissatisfaction. "Shut up. If you had the ability, Beiyu City wouldn't have a successor right now. Yu Tianhe glared at his son. Yukong fell silent once more. He also had 2 wives, but both of them were daughters. This caused him to have no status in the family. Knight Sorrow had been listening the whole time. After lunch, he followed his mother back to his mansion. "Mother, before you got married, you must have suffered a lot at home," Knight Sorrow said with a smile. Hee, it's fine. Your grandfather doesn't yell at your mother, and your uncle respects your mother a lot. Yu Qing also laughed, because the Yu family was indeed a bit different. That's good. Knight Sorrow nodded. After chatting with his mother for a while, Knight Sorrow and Yu Qing went to Night Moon City to meet the seniors who had come. Almost everyone from the Commander-in-Chief's residence had arrived. The saints and managers of the 9 regions world and the profound mysteries realm, who Knight Sorrow knew, had also come to Night Moon City. Knight Sorrow went to visit them one by one. Although he was the Commander-in-Chief, these people were his seniors, and he respected them very much. After visiting them, he drank some wine with his seniors from the Medicine Valley. After chatting for a while, Knight Sorrow returned to Sky City. He stood in front of the cliff in front of his mansion and looked at the lake. Knight Sorrow's heart was filled with emotions. After all these years, Knight Sorrow couldn't believe it himself. He was grateful to everyone who had accompanied him all these years. "What are you thinking about?" Yi Wuyo, who had just returned from Night Moon City, came to Knight Sorrow's side. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 years have passed. Some things are as vivid as yesterday. "I'm very grateful to those who have accompanied me all these years," Knight Sorrow said. "Don't think too much. Just treat those who are good to you well. You had a hard time when you were young. This was because of the war, and also because I didn't fulfill my responsibility as a father." Thinking of Knight Sorrow's suffering in Juyuan village, and thinking of Knight Sorrow's struggle in Medicine Valley as a child, Yi Wuyo also felt uncomfortable in his heart. "Father, in fact, I'm very happy now because my family is safe and sound, and the people around me are safe and sound. I'm very happy and content to be able to contribute to this safety." Knight Sorrow looked at Yi Wuyo and said, "I understand. Rest quietly for 2 days. You don't need to worry about your wedding. Your great-aunt Shen you will handle this matter very well," Yi Wuyo said to Knight Sorrow. The only thing that was right was that he was a pirate. Knight Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was his family. They would think of everything for him. Then, Knight Sorrow went to the lake and looked at the glowing space-time pagoda. Then he got on the wooden boat, untied the rope, and lay down on the deck chair. He let the boat drift with the current while he quietly looked at the sky. Without knowing when, Knight Sorrow fell asleep. There were many people and things in his dream, and they were all things of the past. When he woke up, the moon was already high in the sky. Knight Sorrow took a robe and covered himself with it. At this time, Wu Lingfei, Xikong Chuyu, and the others flew over and landed on the wooden boat. "What's wrong with you? You even removed your protective energy. It's so cold at night." Xikong Chuyu took out a blanket and covered Knight Sorrow's body. "I just want to experience the life of an ordinary person in the past. When I was young, I went hunting and set out before dawn. It's also like this." Knight Sorrow said. No one said anything. They knew that Knight Sorrow was a bit sentimental when he was quiet. After chatting for a while, Wu Lingfei brought the girls back to the lake. Then she communicated with Xiao Kong and entered the 61st floor of the space-time pagoda, which was where Xikong Chuyu and the others cultivated. "Aunt Fei, Knight Sorrow's mood is a bit unstable," Xikong Chuyu said worriedly. "You don't understand. This is a good thing, a rare good thing. In fact, many people don't understand what is the key to entering the Saint King realm from the Saint realm." Wu Lingfei shook her head. Then, Wu Lingfei told the girls, including Xue Shi, the key to entering the Saint King realm from the Saint realm. Although Wu Lingfei's cultivation wasn't as high as Xue Shi's, her talent was astonishing. She had the inheritance of her race, so she knew a lot. What was needed to enter the Saint King realm from the Saint realm was the state of mind. Over the countless years, there had been many peak saints, but Saint Kings had only appeared 10,000 years ago. That was because the Saint realm wasn't high enough. To enter the Saint King realm from the Saint realm, one had to break through to the nascent soul stage. Breaking one's core pearl to form a nascent soul was a realm that could only be touched by one's cultivation. It required one's state of mind to return to the origin. What Aunt Fei means is that Night Sorrow is now unknowingly laying the foundation for entering the Saint King realm? Aoi asked with some surprise. That's right, but why is his state of mind so high? Why has he reached this step? Aunt Fei doesn't understand. Wu Lingfei shook her head. It should be related to becoming the 9 Regions World Master. After becoming the 9 Regions World Master, he understands the world. His state of mind is actually a cultivation method, Xueshi said after thinking about it. Yes, that should be the case, so you don't need to be nervous about his situation. There's no need to interfere, Wu Lingfei said. Sikong Chuyu and the others nodded. This matter was too big. If they delayed Night Sorrow's state of mind and delayed Night Sorrow's breakthrough to the Saint King realm, the consequences would be serious. Speak. Chapter 928. Over the next 2 days, Night Sorrow drifted with the waves on the wooden boat, watching the sun rise and set, watching the clouds roll and disperse. Night Sorrow just wanted to relax. He didn't think about anything else. After relaxing for 2 days, Night Sorrow returned to the lake and transferred everyone out of the space-time pagoda. It was soon his wedding day with the girls. Night Sorrow, how should we deal with Sister Xueshi's matter? Aoi looked at Night Sorrow. I don't need it. I really do. It's good to be quiet like this. Xueshi hurriedly shook her head. You really don't need it. If you want it, I can do it, Night Sorrow said to Xueshi. It's good to be like this. If I need it, I'll tell you. I'll go back to the space-time pagoda to cultivate, Xueshi said to Night Sorrow. Okay. Remember my words. Night Sorrow nodded. He planned to solve the problem of the Xueshi Divine Pearl's soul power after returning from the wedding. Night Sorrow brought Wu Lingfei, Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi to the mansion. You're very punctual this time. Tomorrow is the wedding day, Yu Qing said with a smile. Yu Qing said with a smile. Then, she brought the girls away. Before the wedding, the man and woman were not allowed to be together. Next, Yiling Huan brought Night Moon's people to let Night Sorrow try on a wedding robe. Not bad. Heroic and festive, Yiling Huan said after sizing up his grandson. Night Sorrow smiled at Yiling Huan. Is the wedding very troublesome? Haha, we all know what you're thinking. A wedding is just a formality. It's just a ceremony to pay respects to the ancestors and then we'll have a big banquet with guests. There's no other unnecessary formalities, Yiling said with a smile. Night Sorrow nodded. He didn't like things that were too complicated. After a night's rest, Night Sorrow welcomed the wedding ceremony. First, accompanied by his family, he went to the Medicine Valley and the Sikong family's resting place to pick up the bride. Then, he worshipped the inscription in front of the night moon and entered the main hall to worship the ancestors. Finally, he served tea to the elders of both parties. Night Sorrow didn't forget Father Gu. Under everyone's attention, Night Sorrow arrived in front of Father Gu and bent down to drink some tea. Father, it's been hard on you all these years. Not at all, not at all. Watching you grow up slowly and seeing you have a promising future, I'm very happy. Old Man Gu smiled and said. Sikong Chuyu and company also bowed. They respected Papa Gu and knew how important Papa Gu was to Night Sorrow. He was no different from a parent. After the ceremony, there was a big banquet. The banquet was held from the Night Moon to the Night Moon City. All the restaurants in the Night Moon City welcomed guests for free. They drank with the guests until Night Sorrow brought the girls back to the city in the sky. Haha, why do I feel like I've been in a battle? Night Sorrow said with a smile as he looked at the red festive lanterns in the mansion. It's very busy, but I'm very happy. From today onwards, we are the wives of the commander, said Yang Lei, who was wearing a red festive phoenix robe. You've always been. Night Sorrow nodded with a smile. Then, Night Sorrow pulled them into the bedroom. Everyone slept together, but they just chatted and talked about the past. They didn't do anything else. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow brought the 3 girls to visit their relatives again. Then, they resumed their previous lives. The girls also entered the space-time pagoda to cultivate. Night Sorrow used 1.5 years in the space-time pagoda and 2 months in the real world to raise his true chi cultivation and myriad Dao scripture cultivation to the peak of the sage realm. Night Sorrow didn't disturb the girls' cultivation. He went to the holy hall and accompanied the child to cultivate. At this time, Night Sorrow was just like an ordinary person. There was no energy fluctuation on his body. This was because of the suppression of the rules. Night Sorrow knew that when there was no need for the suppression of the rules and his aura didn't leak out, he would return to his original state. It was an opportunity to enter the Saint King realm. This was recorded in the clear heaven scripture. After staying with the child in the Holy Hall for a few days, Night Sorrow returned to the Bamboo Forest Peak. The Bamboo Forest Peak was Night Sorrow's territory in the Medicine Valley. No matter how the management of the Medicine Valley changed, this didn't change and wouldn't change. The Taishan Peak had already designated the Bamboo Forest Peak area, where Night Sorrow cultivated, as a forbidden area. Ordinary disciples couldn't enter. Night Sorrow lived in the Bamboo Forest Peak. He lived the life of an ordinary person. Every day, he would fetch water and make tea, stroll in the bamboo forest, and look around. If there was a difference between Night Sorrow and before, it was that he didn't kill. He had changed his habit of eating barbecued meat. This was a change after he became the 9 Regions World Lord. He didn't want to hurt any life in the 9 Regions world. After learning that Night Sorrow had returned to the Bamboo Forest Peak, there were people who came to visit him a few days ago. Later on, the number of people who came to visit him decreased. Even though they didn't know what was going on with Night Sorrow, they knew that Night Sorrow didn't like to be disturbed. The peak lord of the Crepe Myrtle was now Tang Qianqian. Yi Xiling had already stepped down and became the elder of the main peak. However, she still lived in the Crepe Myrtle. Master, disciple and senior sister went to visit Supreme Elder Night Sorrow the day before yesterday. We couldn't see through his cultivation base. Why do I feel like he's just an ordinary person? Lin Jingyi looked at Yi Xiling and asked. I don't know either. He's a peak 9-star saint. He has killed a 9-star saint from the Netherworld realm and destroyed the clone of a Saint King. Therefore, his situation isn't something that ordinary people can understand. Yi Xiling shook her head. She was currently at the peak of the Void Inquiry stage at the 5th grade. She was trying to break through to the Venerable realm. However, compared to a Saint realm expert, be it in terms of cultivation base or vision, she was still far behind. When we went there, he was chopping materials and making tea. Something that can be easily solved with just a little bit of pill fire. He did it very carefully. If we don't know about his past, we would think that he's just an ordinary young master who is comprehending life. Tang Qianqian said. Perhaps he's comprehending life. It's very difficult for us to understand his matters. If you really have any questions about cultivation, you can go and ask him. He will give you the answer. Yi Xiling said. Tang Qianqian, Lin Jingyi and the others nodded. A is the only genuine copy. KKKKKZ him. All of them are pirated copies. Sometimes, Night Sorrow would even look for Shi Yunxiao, Shi Yunhai, EU, Jiang Han and the other companions who entered the void fiendish space to have a drink. Night Sorrow's behavior confused the higher-ups of the Medicine Valley. They did not know what Night Sorrow was doing. Chu Lingxiao informed Gong Xian who was in the Holy Hall. After Gong Xian returned, he gathered all the Supreme Elders. Of course, Night Sorrow was an exception. He's already a peak Saint Realm expert now. It's very difficult for him to improve his cultivation base. Therefore, there's nothing much for him to do. He's just reminiscing about his past. Everyone, don't bother about his matters. He can do whatever he wants. Yu Yongyu said after thinking for a while. After staying in the Bamboo Forest Peak for a month, Night Sorrow went to the Holy Hall to teach the children how to cultivate. He mingled with the children and became their leader. These were the days that Night Sorrow enjoyed very much. In addition, Night Sorrow discovered that the amount of energy leaking out of his body was much less when he did not deliberately control it. After staying for a while, Night Sorrow also planned to return to the city in the sky. After the wedding he ran out. It was not appropriate for him to not go back for nearly 2 months. When Night Sorrow was about to leave, the children were very reluctant to part with him. Jun Xuanji said that Night Sorrow still had something to do, so the children reluctantly sent Night Sorrow to the teleportation array. Speak. Chapter 929. After returning to the city in the sky, Night Sorrow discovered that everyone was cultivating diligently. His fiancée was still in the space-time pagoda. After greeting his parents and chatting with Papa Gu for a while, Night Sorrow continued to row the boat on the lake. Life was very comfortable. Night Sorrow also took some time to cultivate the outer chapter of the Myriad Tao Tome. Night Sorrow felt that he had found the right cultivation path. Even if he didn't use the laws to suppress his energy, only half of it would leak out. Night Sorrow relaxed for 3 months before Sikong Chuyu and the others came out. Sikong Chuyu and the other two's cultivation increased very quickly. They were all mid-level supremacies, and all of them had laws. Qing Ji's cultivation also slowly caught up. Because she had the space origin in her body, when she controlled the laws, her mental state also improved. As for energy, there was no lack of it in the space-time treasure pagoda. Translator, Exodus Tales Editor. Exodus Tales Wu Lingfei and Xue Shi also came out of seclusion. One of them had a 7-fold time acceleration on the 77th level, while the other had a 5-fold time acceleration on the 75th level. Night Sorrow had been out for 3 months, while they had cultivated for 1 or 2 years. Night Sorrow also chased the god-slaying team out so that everyone could relax. Night Sorrow, there are so many of us cultivating. The space-time pagoda needs a lot of energy. Do you have enough spirit stones? Xue Shi looked at Night Sorrow and asked. Everyone, don't worry. I put a few thousand top-grade spirit stones in it some time ago. It won't run out of energy. Xue Shi, I'll take back the spiritual power in your divine bead. Don't do anything, or it will hurt your divine bead, Night Sorrow said to Xue Shi. No, it'll be easier for us to communicate if it stays inside. It won't hurt. Xue Shi shook her head. She knew that Night Sorrow wouldn't hurt her, not at all. That's fine. You can deal with it whenever you want. Night Sorrow thought for a moment before nodding. Following that, the women caught some fish and chatted by the lake while roasting them. Night Sorrow, you're in a good situation. You should have gained some insights, right? Wu Lingfei asked Night Sorrow. The difficulty of entering the Saint King realm from the Saint realm lies mainly in one's state of mind. It's not easy to return to one's original state, Night Sorrow said. When you left, Auntie Fei had a chat with Long Xiansheng and Saint Xian. They had all been peak saints for close to 1,000 years, but it's too difficult for them to return to their original state. Even if their current realm is higher than yours, it's not much higher. You being able to take this step might have something to do with your body of merit. Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. Maybe. I'm not too sure myself, Night Sorrow said with a smile. So what if you know? It's not like you can do it. Actually, you're fine the way you are now. Wu Lingfei looked at Night Sorrow and said. She understood that Night Sorrow had good fortune and merit, so the path he took was often in line with the heavenly way. I have to work hard to resolve the great calamity that the Heaven Profound world has launched against the 9-domain world. First of all, I have to rely on the resistance of the 9-domain world's laws. Second, I have to rely on my own strength. Only with strength can I have confidence. Night Sorrow took the roasted fish from Sikong Chuyu and said. Believe in yourself. You can definitely do it. Sikong Chuyu nodded to Night Sorrow. Yes, you can definitely do it. In addition, everyone is also working hard. Wu Lingfei nodded to Night Sorrow. After eating the roasted fish, the group returned to the mansion. When Night Sorrow returned to the mansion, Yi Wuyo and his wife arrived. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were also in Sky City. Yi Wuyo was the person in charge of Night Moon, but Night Moon was currently developing in an orderly manner. There was nothing that he needed to personally deal with. Mother, you've already cultivated to the late stage of the 9th level Venerable Realm. You're not far from entering the Sage Realm. Night Sorrow said with a smile. Yes, I've already grasped the laws. Condensing the God Bead is not a big problem. I just need some time. Yu Qing said. Mother, I'll go and bring little sister back. We'll have a family dinner together tonight. Aoi said. Okay, go then. Yu Qing nodded. Little sister is very hard-working. She's already at the late stage of the core condensation realm. She's not far from entering the 4th stage of the spirit-severing realm. Night Sorrow said after watching Aoi leave. At that time, I didn't know you were still alive. The elders of Night Moon all treated her as the successor. Yi Wuyo said with a smile. Father, Mother, you should cultivate little sister as the successor of Night Moon. I have a lot of things to do. I don't have time to care about Night Moon. It's a burden for me. Night Sorrow said. After hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yi Wuyo fell into deep thought. Yu Qing didn't say anything. In fact, they all knew the situation. You're the commander of 2 worlds. In the future, It's not suitable for you to be the ruler of the Night Moon dynasty. You're from Night Moon. That's enough. However, I can't make the decision alone. I'll have to discuss it with your grandfather, great-grandfather, and great-uncle, Yi Wuyo said after thinking for a while. I've made things difficult for father. Night Sorrow said apologetically. Big brother, you've also made things difficult for father. At this time, Yin Yanxiao and Aoi entered the residence's main hall. With the teleportation formation, Aoi was able to quickly pick someone up. Haha, it's nothing. Night Sorrow rubbed the back of Yin Yanxiao's head. Big brother, did you encounter something difficult? Yin Yanxiao looked at Night Sorrow with a smile. Your big brother plans to give up the position of the young master of Night Moon and let you take it. Yu Qing said. That's right. How could I do that? Big brother is the commander of 2 worlds. He'll naturally be the future ruler of Night Moon. Yin Yanxiao was startled. In her eyes, Night Sorrow's big brother was omnipotent. He would naturally be the future ruler of Night Moon. Because your big brother is the commander of 2 worlds, there's no longer a need for him to be the ruler of Night Moon. As for Yi Lan and Yi Jun, they're a bit lacking. Only you can do it. However, your future husband might have to marry into Night Moon, said Yi Wuyo. Yin Yanxiao didn't say anything. She was still young, and there were some things she didn't understand. I hope to see a female ruler appear in Night Moon. Night Sorrow patted Yin Yanxiao on the shoulder. Father, won't Night Moon reject the appearance of a female ruler? Yang Lei looked at Yi Wuyo. They won't reject it. However, the next generation will depend on their bloodline. When the time comes, your children will also be able to replace them. Let's talk about it later. It's a bit far. I'll tell the elders about it later, said Yi Wuyo. After this matter was settled, it was time for the family feast. The family feast was prepared by the women. Night Sorrow and his father chatted while drinking tea. Night Sorrow pondered for a moment before telling Yi Wuyo about the boundless world and Yi Tian entering it. You're saying that the Moon Emperor's great ancestor's current situation isn't very good? Yi Wuyo looked at Night Sorrow in astonishment. Yes. However, he's still alive. That's for sure. Night Sorrow said. The boundless world has a world lord. You definitely can't rashly enter it. Be careful. This is a big matter. You have to be careful. Yi Wuyo looked at Night Sorrow. He didn't want his son to be in any danger. Speak. Chapter 930. I understand. I won't act recklessly. Night Sorrow nodded. It's been hard on you. You've been born in such a chaotic world. Everything has to happen to you. Yi Wuyo felt a bit helpless. Night Sorrow had too many things to take care of. The banquet was joyous and harmonious. The family was reunited. Everyone cherished it. This was what everyone wanted. After the banquet, Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing left Sky City with Yin Yanxiao. They wanted to go to Night Moon to discuss this matter with their family. Night Sorrow directly returned to his room to rest. He had drunk a bit of wine and wanted to rest. Sikong Chuyu and the others went to cultivate in the space-time pagoda beside the lake. Night Sorrow had told Little Kong that the members of the god-slaying squad, Xue Shi, Wu Lingfei, and Sikong Chuyu, could enter and leave as they pleased. In the main hall of Night Moon, Yi Wuyo called his father and the other emperors over. He then told them about Night Sorrow's thoughts. That's the truth. Night Sorrow is currently the commander of 2 realms in the commander's residence. He really isn't suitable to be the ruler of the Night Moon dynasty. In truth, he's from the Night Moon. That's enough. As long as he's here, the Night Moon won't decline, said Yi Shenxian. Yi Shenxian and the others nodded. In truth, there were some things that everyone was well aware of. Nian Xiao, your brother isn't suitable. In the future, Night Moon's guts will be placed on you. This is an opportunity for you, but it's also a pressure. Yi Shenyue looked at Yin Yanxiao. Great aunt, I don't care about pressure. I'm willing to share the worries of my family and clansmen, said Yin Yanxiao. The most outstanding member of Night Moon isn't the ruler. This is the only case in the history of the family. However, everyone knows this, said Yi Shenquang. After the meeting of the Night Moon family, Yin Yanzhao's status as the young master of Night Moon was decided. Of course, Night Sorrow's status as the young master of Night Moon remained unchanged. When the news of Night Moon's new young master was announced, it caused a huge uproar in the Night Moon dynasty. Many Night Moon citizens gathered and asked why Night Sorrow wanted to appoint a new young master. They did not accept it. Night Moon dynasty immediately released another announcement, explaining the situation. They explained that it was Night Sorrow's own will that extinguished the storm. Many Night Moon people only recognized Night Sorrow as their young master. After understanding the situation through the announcement, they calmed down. Night Moon Sky, Night God Thunder rubbed his face. Night Moon Dynasty's Elder Council can't replace the young master. This has never happened before. That's right. If it wasn't for Night Sorrow's own intentions, we wouldn't have been able to change his status as the young master. If we forcefully changed him, it would be a mutiny. Night Shenyu nodded. Prestige in Night Moon Dynasty. No one had a higher prestige than Night Sorrow. Even the undefeated King Yi Linghuan could not compare to him. This was because before the return of the Yi clan, Night Sorrow had already established a stable sky, giving the Night Moon citizens a stable and steady life. And this stability and steadfastness had been obtained by Night Sorrow at the cost of his life. He had slaughtered his way in and out of the various dynasties. This was something that all Night Moon citizens remembered. Night Sorrow did not know about this. He lived the life of an ordinary person every day. He even took a pair of large scissors and became a gardener in the city in the sky, pruning the flowers and trees. Sometimes, Night Sorrow would bring a pair of large scissors to the holy hall. After teaching the children, he would trim the flowers and plants in the holy hall. He had even made a reclining chair himself. After guiding the children in their cultivation, he would sleep on the reclining chair with a bamboo cover he had brought with him when trimming the flowers. So this is the commander. Once Tai Shu Yen, Lu Qin, and Jun Xuanji had finished dealing with the issue of resources, they arrived at the martial practice field. Jun Xuanji was a bit puzzled as he looked at the sleeping Yi Shan. That's right. He's been extremely comfortable every day, Tai Shu Yen said with a smile. It's simply impossible to associate him with the commander who defeated the 9 Underworld King. Jun Xuanji also shook his head. He was too tired in the past. Ever since he came out of Bamboo Garden Village, he had never stopped fighting. It's time for him to rest, Tai Shu Yen said. Tai Shu Yen and Jun Xuanji left, but Lu Qin did not. She stood at the side of the reclining chair. Night Sorrow only woke up when the sun set. City Lord Lu, what are you doing? No one will do anything to me. Why do I need to stand guard? Night Sorrow said as he tidied up his robes. Commander, this subordinate is here to apologize. This subordinate sent people to assassinate the commander. Lu Qin said with a bow. Was there such a thing? Why didn't I know about it? You're thinking too much. The current situation is quite good. I believe that under the arrangements of Monarch Yun and City Lord Lu, everything will be fine. Night Sorrow covered Lu Qin for a moment and then made his words clearer. Yes, everything will be fine. Lu Qin nodded in response. She naturally understood what Night Sorrow meant. I have no choice but to arrange so many things for City Lord Lu. The Holy Hall is too important. Night Sorrow changed the topic. Haha, the matters of the Southly region will be handled by others. Monarch Yun also has arrangements for some other matters. If the commander feels that it's been hard on me, then get me a reclining chair tomorrow. Lu Qin pointed at the reclining chair beside Night Sorrow. All right, tomorrow I'll get one for you, Martial Uncles, and Elder June. It's very comfortable, and it'll be good for sunbathing. Night Sorrow smiled and nodded. Let's go. The next day, Night Sorrow really did make 3 reclining chairs and gave them to Tai Shu Yen, Lu Qin, and Jun Xuanji. These are reclining chairs personally made by the commander of the 2 realms. Lying on them will definitely be very comfortable, Tai Shu Yen said after putting away the reclining chairs. Night Sorrow stayed in the Holy Hall as a teacher and gardener. Sometimes he would go to Zhuyuan City and drink tea at Chen Chen's tea house. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. Night Sorrow was still the same. When he had time, he would walk around and spend the rest of his time in the Holy Hall. Others felt that Night Sorrow did not cultivate and had nothing to do, but Night Sorrow knew that he had gained a lot. Even without the suppression of the rules, only 1/3 of his aura would leak out. This made him feel that living naturally was very effective in nurturing his state of mind. Sikong Chuyu and the other two girls would sometimes come to the Holy Hall, mainly to see Night Sorrow. On this day, while Night Sorrow was still sleeping under the sun, Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing came. Their children were all here, so naturally they had to come and see them. But this time, Yu Qing was a little angry. "Father, mother, you're here. I'll go call my sister." Night Sorrow got up and said after putting away the reclining chairs. "Wait a moment. If you stay here all day, when will mother be able to hold a grandson? Tomorrow, we'll go back to Sky City. If you don't have a child, you're not allowed to come out." Yu Qing stared at Night Sorrow and said. Night Sorrow had been married for more than 2 years, but he still had no children. The people of Night Moon were very puzzled, and Yi Wuyo and his wife were also very anxious. "Mother, it's not like that. It's not that I don't want children, but there's something wrong with my body." Night Sorrow said. "If there's something wrong, go find a pharmacist." Yu Qing was stunned and said. She did not expect Night Sorrow to say that there was something wrong with his body. Speak. Chapter 931. Mother, what are you thinking? I'm saying that my body is too strong, so if I want to have a child, it'll depend on luck. However, if I have a child, the child's talent will definitely be very strong. His innate body's strength will surpass that of demon beasts and spirit beasts. Yi Shan explained. I see. Then you have to go back and accompany them. Look at you. You've been staying here with these children for the past 2 years. You don't care about your 3 wives at home. Yu Qing was very dissatisfied with Night Sorrow's performance in the past 2 years. I'm sorry to disappoint you, mother. I was busy cultivating and didn't care about everyone's feelings, Night Sorrow said apologetically. Cultivating. Yu Qing looked at Night Sorrow in surprise. Yes, the bottleneck from the Saint Realm to the Saint King Realm is the key to one's state of mind. I have been pursuing this step for the past 2 years and neglected father, mother, and Chuyu. Night Sorrow nodded and said. I told you not to meddle in the children's affairs. I'm not someone who doesn't know what to do, Yi Wuyo said. Mother misunderstood you. However, you have to go back with us and Nianxiao today. Mother will cook delicious food for you. Mother will also go into seclusion after a while, Yu Qing said. She had also cultivated to the peak of the Venerable Realm. After Night Sorrow returned to Sky City, the women also came out of seclusion. With the help of the space-time pagoda, everyone's cultivation was very fast. Their cultivation was very solid, and they were about to enter the late stage of the Venerable Realm. After the family banquet, while the women cultivated, Night Sorrow sailed the boat across the lake every day or walked around. There was a saying in Sky City that you wouldn't understand the world of commanders because Night Sorrow didn't cultivate every day. People who didn't understand Night Sorrow wouldn't understand how he cultivated his super combat strength. Night Sorrow's main body cultivated his state of mind. His soul avatar often walked around the netherworld, observing the movements of the netherworld and inquiring about the 9 Dark King. As long as the 9 Dark King wanted to make a comeback, he would know. More than 2 years had passed, and the nether realm was like a jar of stagnant water. There was no news of the 9 Nether King. Night Sorrow's soul avatar had also been to the nether abyss, but he had not been able to explore it. The death energy in the nether dark abyss was too dense. Even if Night Sorrow's soul avatar used the power of laws to protect its body, it could not penetrate deeper. Only those of the same attribute could go deeper. This made Night Sorrow certain that this was a good place for death attribute cultivators to cultivate. It was very likely that the 9 Dark King was here. Night Sorrow's soul avatar set up an illusion array. He sat in the illusion array and meditated. He studied the laws and combat skills while monitoring the outside. As long as the 9 Dark Nether King appeared, Night Sorrow would know, and his true body would rush over to kill the 9 Dark Nether King. At this time, the 9 Dark King was sitting on a platform that protruded from a cliff in the Yuming Deep Abyss, cultivating. There was a void Dao stone on her legs, and her soul clone had been destroyed. As she raised her cultivation, she continued to nurture her clone. Time passed slowly, and in the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. On this day, Night Sorrow, who had returned from the lake, stood by the lake and displayed his spear skills. After the 7-star brilliant moon spear was displayed, every spear had the void extreme point kill. This was the result of his avatar practicing his spear skills. After practicing for a while, Night Sorrow felt very satisfied. He put away the reincarnation spear, took out a jar of wine, and drank by himself. At this time, he had stabilized his cultivation and cultivated his mental state for 7 years. In other words, more than 7 years had passed since the battle with the Nether Realm. After cultivating for 7 years, Night Sorrow's realm had improved a lot. Now, he did not need to be controlled by the laws, and his energy rarely leaked out. In other words, he was not far from entering the Saint King realm. After that, Night Sorrow checked and found that no one was breaking through in seclusion in the space-time pagoda. He shook the pagoda and asked everyone to come out and relax. Asterisk up. After the members of the God-slaying squad said goodbye to Night Sorrow, they all left. These 7 years had been 7 years for the God-slaying squad's strength to soar. Other than Ma Shizhuang, Tang Tian, and Chu Ning, the rest of the members of the God-slaying squad were all venerables. With the method of cultivating soul power and cultivating realm that Night Sorrow had imparted to them, and with the assistance of the space-time pagoda, the members of the God-slaying squad naturally cultivated very quickly. After entering the venerable realm, there was no problem in cultivating because the God-slaying squad had the dragon spirit pill. What they needed to do was to stabilize their cultivation and hone it. The steps in the space-time pagoda were the best way to hone their cultivation. Sikong Chuyu and Yang Lei were already high-level venerables. Aoi had also reached the 6th stage. Xueshi had the effect of time acceleration, and her cultivation had increased to the middle stage of the Star Saint realm. Wu Lingfei's cultivation speed was even more terrifying. She was already at the peak of the 6th Star Saint realm. She would be able to enter the high-level Saint realm after stabilizing her cultivation. This was the power of talent. Yi Wuyo had also become a 3-star saint, and Yu Qing had also become a 2-star saint. It could be said that the cultivation of the people around Night Sorrow had undergone earth-shattering changes. Jun Xuanji and Tai Shu Yan also walked out of the space-time pagoda. Jun Xuanji had begun cultivating in the pagoda 4 years ago, and he was now a 2-star saint. Tai Shu Yan was a little late. She had only become a saint a year ago. Night Sorrow had recommended this place for her to comprehend the laws. In addition, the 9 Regions world and the Profound Mysteries realm had also produced a few saints in the past few years. This was mainly because the war had brought some saint crystals to the 9 Regions world's camp. Everyone needs to relax. The space-time pagoda will not be open for half a year, Night Sorrow said. Sikong Chuyu came to Night Sorrow's side and said, "It's a good time to relax. You've been carefree for a few years." Night Sorrow said, "Haha, I'll accompany you tomorrow. I'll also go and pay my respects to my father-in-law and mother-in-law." Night Sorrow, what's your situation now? Wu Lingfei also walked over. It's about time. I can try to stabilize myself a little more, Night Sorrow said. He knew what Wu Lingfei was asking. There's no rush. Auntie Fei plans to return to East Snow Mountain to rest for a while. If there's anything, just crush Auntie Fei's messaging crystal, Wu Lingfei said to Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that everyone needed to relax. This was also the reason why he had transferred everyone out. "Commander, I'll go to the Netherworld and see if they have any intention of reviving," Jun Xuanji said. This was Jun Xuanji. He had a strong view of the big picture and could think of some things. Night Sorrow looked at Jun Xuanji and Tai Shu Yan and said, "There's no need to go. My soul avatar is there. Everything is stable. Go back to the Profound Mysteries realm and take a walk. Also, the first batch of children in the Saint Hall have grown up and their minds have matured. They won't be harmed again. If you want, you can take in a second batch of members." Based on the principle of better to have nothing than to have something substandard, Jun Xuanji and Tai Shu Yan nodded and left the lake. Night Sorrow knew that he should also make arrangements for Chen Chen's family, especially for that child to walk on the path of cultivation. While the family was eating, Night Sorrow was still thinking and was a little absent-minded. "What are you thinking about?" Yi Wuyo asked. "I'm thinking about whether to send that child to the Saint Hall or to Night Moon." Night Sorrow looked at Yi Wuyo and said, "Speak." Chapter 4. After reading the book, I'll sign in and rub it in. If there's an excavator, I'll give it to you. Chapter 932. They're all good choices. The education conditions of the Saint Church are good, but the teaching methods of our Night Moon may be more suitable. Yi Wuyo said. Yes, so I don't know how to arrange it. Night Sorrow said. He had been thinking about this problem for a long time. How about this? Let him go to the Saint Church. Night Moon will find a suitable person to guide him and let the Emperor of Shenyue go. Yi Wuyo thought for a moment and said. Hearing Yi Wuyo's words, Night Sorrow nodded. He knew that this was the best arrangement. Night Moon was a woman and she had the last patience. What are you two whispering about? Yu Qing asked. Nothing. Yi Wuyo shook his head. This matter was related to his ancestor Yi Qianhua. Yi Wuyo had not told anyone, including his wife. However, he was going to tell Night Moon because the matter of teaching Yi Qianhua had to be done by Night Moon. After dinner, Night Sorrow and Yi Wuyo strolled and talked in the city in the sky. We have to tell the Emperor of Shenyue about this. Yi Wuyo said. I know. Tomorrow, Father will talk to the Emperor of Shenyue. I'll take the Emperor of Shenyue with me. Night Sorrow said. He felt that it was better for Chen Chen to go there himself. That's fine. Otherwise, they might not be willing to let the child out. Yi Wuyo nodded. After resting for a night, Night Sorrow took Night Moon, who already knew the details, to Zhuyuan City and went to Chen Chen's tea house. Chen Chen's family was very familiar with Night Sorrow. The child called Qian Hua carried a pot of water to Night Sorrow's side. Night Sorrow asked him to sit on the chair beside him and got up to pour tea. Chen Chen, I'm here today for something. Night Sorrow said directly. First, what's the matter? Chen Chen nodded and sat opposite Night Sorrow and Night Moon. This is the Emperor of Night Moon's dynasty, Shenyue. He's an invincible venerable. I invited the Emperor of Shenyue to guide Qian Hua's cultivation. Night Sorrow introduced Night Moon to Chen Chen. Chen Chen greets the Emperor of Shenyue. Chen Chen stood up and cupped his fists to Night Moon. Yi Shenyu nodded and looked at the child next to Yi Shang. There were even tears in her eyes because her ancestors' past had been too tragic. Can I say no? Chen Chen said with a smile. He knew that Yi Shang had already arranged everything. He just needed to inform him. I really can't do that. I'll make some arrangements for you in Dongxian City. If you like being a tea house owner, you can continue to be one with your wife. Qian Hua and the Divine Moon Emperor will go to the Sacred Hall to cultivate and will return home often. He will have a great future, Yi Shang said. Chen Chen nodded. I believe you. You can arrange it. Chen Chen knew Night Sorrow well. In addition, Night Sorrow often came over in the past few years. He knew that Night Sorrow was really good to the child. Then Night Sorrow went to Dongxian City and bought a tea house near the Saint Temple. Then, he teleported to Zhuyuan City again and brought Chen Chen and his wife, as well as Night Moon and the child, to the new tea house. The tea here is warm. It seems that you just bought it. Chen Chen looked at the teapot on the table and said, In the future, I won't pay for the tea when I come here. Things have been arranged, so I won't care. If you need anything, go to the Saint Temple and say that you want to see me. Someone will inform me. Night Sorrow said. Night Moon said goodbye to Chen Chen and his wife, then took the child and left with Night Sorrow. So this is the commander of the two worlds. He looks like an ordinary person, Chen Chen's wife said. Just like an ordinary person. Don't provoke his reverse scale. Countless experts from the profound mysteries realm and the nether realm have died at his hands. When you see his ruthless side, you won't say that he's like an ordinary person, Chen Chen said. After taking Night Moon and the child to the Saint Temple and making arrangements, Night Sorrow returned to the city in the sky. After saying goodbye to his parents and wife, Night Sorrow continued to sail the boat across the lake. His realm had already reached the threshold of returning to one's origin. As long as it stabilized, he would be able to touch the threshold of the Saint King realm. This advancement was the most time-consuming for Night Sorrow. In the past, the unity of heaven and man when he entered the Exalt realm and the energy of the laws when he entered the Saint realm hadn't stopped him, but it had consumed a few years of his time this time. Although it had taken some time, Night Sorrow was still very satisfied. This was because countless people had been stuck at this bottleneck. For 10,000 years, not a single Saint King had appeared, which showed how difficult it was. If one could reach the realm of returning to one's origin, then they would be there. If one could not reach it, then they would be stuck forever. Long Xianxing, Tianming Saint, Xian Wenxiu, and Shang Luo were examples. Even 10,000 years ago, before the Nine Regions world was destroyed, There were many saints, but only 3 saint kings had appeared. The clear sky saint king had reincarnated several times and had cultivation experience. After relaxing in the lake for more than half a month, Night Sorrow returned to the 10th floor of the Space-Time Treasure Pagoda. After cultivating for 2 days, Night Sorrow decided to break through to the Saint King realm. He did not tell anyone, mainly because he did not want anyone to worry. Night Sorrow circulated the energy in his body, first stabilizing his emotions and true qi. After stabilizing for half a day, Night Sorrow began to inject the true qi in his dantian into the dan bead, bit by bit. Fortunately, it was gaseous true qi. No matter how condensed it was still gaseous and very gentle. Night Sorrow instilled it bit by bit, and time passed by. He was very careful because this was too important, and there was no room for carelessness. His 2 soul avatars had closed their spiritual consciousness, for fear of being affected and affecting the breakthrough of his main body. The avatar's cultivation would always improve with the main body, which meant that the avatar's cultivation could not be higher than the main body, and the realm was the same. Night Sorrow's avatar in the heaven-sealing Great Hall was full of flesh and blood essence, but it was still an avatar. Only when the main body did not exist, that was to say, when the main body died, it could act as the main body. When the main body existed, it was a subsidiary, even if it merged with the heaven-sealing Great Hall. This was the rule of the heavenly Tao. The avatar could not comprehend the realm, but it could study battle skills for the main body and study the shortcomings of battle skills. As the true qi in Night Sorrow's dantian decreased, Night Sorrow's dan bead also changed. It was as if it could not bear the true qi, and spiderweb-like cracks appeared. At other times, cracks appeared on the dan bead, which was a sign of the destruction of one's cultivation, but this was not the case for Night Sorrow. This was an inevitable phenomenon during a breakthrough. If one's realm was not enough, it would be useless to inject true qi into the dan bead, and the dan bead would not break out of its cocoon and condense into a dan nascent soul. When all the true qi in Night Sorrow's dantian entered the dan bead naturally cracked, like a lotus blooming. As Night Sorrow's dan bead cracked, a baby appeared in his dantian. The baby's face was exactly the same as Night Sorrow's, but it was much smaller. It was the dan nascent soul unique to the Saint King realm. At the same time that Night Sorrow's dan nascent soul was formed, a large number of tribulation clouds appeared in the sky above the city in the sky. The tribulation clouds were much larger than Night Sorrow's previous thunder tribulations, and they shrouded the entire city in the sky. This made Tai Shu Yen and Jun Xuanji, who had returned to the city in the sky after half a year, very shocked. Long Xianxing and other peak saints who were meditating in the city in the sky also woke up from their meditation, not understanding what had happened. Speaking. Chapter 933. At this time, Night Sorrow's 3 fiancés and Xueshi were all looking at the sky. The tribulation clouds had come too suddenly and too violently. The rolling tribulation clouds had already covered the entire sky city and even the lake beside it. Senior Long Xianxing, what's going on? Tai Shu Yen looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky and asked. If I'm not wrong, it's attracted by the commander. Long Xianxing flashed to the edge of the cliff and said while looking at the space-time pagoda beside the lake. How could it be attracted by the commander? Could it be? Jun Xuanji's face changed at this point. Yes, the Saint's Thunder Tribulation is not so terrifying and the area it covers is not so big. Xian Wenxiu nodded at Jun Xuanji. He naturally knew what Jun Xuanji was thinking. At this time, the cultivators of Sky City had all reached the edge of the cliff. At this time, Night Sorrow had also been reminded by Shao Kong that the tribulation clouds had arrived. His body flashed out of the space-time pagoda. Night Sorrow waved his left sleeve and flew away with the shrunken space-time pagoda. He could not destroy this place. Sky City was his home. The Saint King realm is indeed true. The commander is going against the heavens. Shang Luo said. After Night Sorrow appeared, the peak saints could naturally see his cultivation. Night Sorrow's speed had reached the extreme. His body flashed and he was several miles away. As Night Sorrow moved, the tribulation clouds in the sky also moved. The people of Sky City also followed behind. Everyone was worried about Night Sorrow's safety and did not want to miss such a scene. After flying for 100 miles, Night Sorrow stopped in an open area. Then, he stretched out his right hand and held the reincarnation spear in his hand. He then smiled and nodded at Sikong Chuyu and the others, waiting for the arrival of the tribulation clouds. With a loud explosion, the tribulation clouds parted and a purple-black lightning struck down at Night Sorrow. At this time, Night Sorrow's space energy crescent slash appeared behind him, directly cutting the area in front of the lightning tribulation. He wanted to use space turbulence to block the descent of the lightning tribulation. The power of the lightning was terrifying, much stronger than that of a saint's thunder tribulation. However, Night Sorrow's cultivation level had also increased. The crescent moon slash, which carried the law of space, directly cut a wide crack in space. The power of the lightning that passed through the spatial rift was reduced by a third. Following that, Night Sorrow unleashed a second spatial tear, followed by rule suppression. The first lightning tribulation disappeared when it reached Night Sorrow's head. Then came the second lightning tribulation. Night Sorrow used the same method. If he could save energy, he would naturally think of ways to save energy. He had just advanced and his true chi was not stable, so he was not suitable for a hard battle. When the third lightning tribulation descended, Night Sorrow used the myriad Tao Tome's power of desolation. As he retreated, he continuously attacked with his spear, destroying the lightning with over 20 spears. However, Night Sorrow also tasted the power of the Saint King Thunder Tribulation. The myriad Tao Tome's energy could not isolate it, and his hands were numb from the bombardment. Shaking his shoulders, Night Sorrow warmed up his hands. He did not even activate his protective chi cover, yet he withstood 3 lightning tribulations. This is really heaven-defying. My saint's thunder tribulation almost killed him. Tai Shu Yan muttered to herself. Tai Shu Yan's words caused many saints to feel the same way. The lightning tribulation was indeed fatal. Even if one withstood it, they would be covered in injuries. At this time, the fourth lightning tribulation had already descended, and its power was much stronger than the previous 3. However, Night Sorrow did not mind. He had several types of energy in his body, so withstanding the lightning tribulation should not be a problem. With the myriad Tao Tome's energy protecting him, Night Sorrow continued to fly out of the spear and faced the lightning attacks. He fought with the lightning until it disappeared. Night Sorrow also gasped for breath. The lightning was too strong, and it had directly consumed half of the myriad Tao Tome's energy. Looking up at the sky, Night Sorrow shook his right arm to relieve the numbness. At this time, the fifth lightning tribulation struck again. Night Sorrow first released a spatial crack, then flew up and faced the lightning with his spear. The myriad Tao Tome's energy, which had the effect of time acceleration, was constantly annihilating the lightning energy. When the myriad Tao Tome's energy in Night Sorrow's body was almost depleted, the fifth lightning tribulation also dissipated. At this time, Night Sorrow also controlled his true chi and began to quickly circulate it, because the lightning tribulation had not yet dissipated. These few lightning tribulations can easily kill a saint, Long Xianxing said. At this time, the sixth lightning tribulation struck again. Night Sorrow waved his left hand and threw the space-time pagoda toward the sixth lightning tribulation. The space-time pagoda was extremely powerful at this time. It was fixed in the air and withstood the lightning strikes. The lightning tribulation was withstood by the space-time pagoda until it dissipated. As the commander's cultivation increases, the space-time pagoda's power is also getting stronger, Heavenly Underworld Saint muttered. After the sixth lightning tribulation dissipated, the lightning tribulation clouds in the sky were still rolling. Look at the text, Edition P above chapter. As the lightning tribulation clouds rolled, muffled sounds of thunder could be heard continuously. The seventh lightning tribulation was still brewing. Why is it not over yet? Yang Lei was a little anxious. Although Night Sorrow had withstood the first few lightning tribulations easily, as long as the lightning tribulation clouds did not dissipate, she was incomparably worried. The lightning tribulation is an odd number. Usually there will be 3 lightning tribulations, and then there will be 5 or 7 lightning tribulations. There are no records of it in the ancient books, but it is normal for it to appear on the commander, Long Xianxing said. Following an explosion, a lightning tribulation as thick as a bucket appeared. However, the lightning tribulation clouds also dissipated. This meant that this was the last lightning tribulation. If he withstood it, he would have taken a step forward. If not, he would not be annihilated. Seeing that it was the last lightning tribulation, Night Sorrow kept the space-time pagoda and stabbed the reincarnation spear in his right hand into the ground, waiting for the lightning tribulation to arrive. The purple-black lightning tribulation directly fell on Night Sorrow's body and began to destroy Night Sorrow's body. However, Night Sorrow's body at this time, his flesh, bones, and internal organs were all made up of energy. When they were destroyed, the energy would recover. The powerful lightning tribulation once again annihilated the impurities in Night Sorrow's almost perfect body, helping him to strengthen his body once again. Without Night Sorrow's resistance, the lightning tribulation and Night Sorrow lasted for a quarter of an hour before dissipating. After Night Sorrow took a robe and put it on, he looked up to the sky and roared. The lightning tribulation had passed, and he had officially become a Saint King cultivator. Long Xianxing took the lead, and everyone clapped their hands to celebrate Night Sorrow and the Nine Regions world. Because after 10,000 years, the Nine Regions world had once again produced a Saint King. Holding the wine jar and drinking 2 mouthfuls of wine, Night Sorrow began to meditate and cultivate, stabilizing his newly advanced cultivation. The Netherworld realm and the Nine Dark King will not be able to cause any more waves. They are no longer a threat to the Nine Regions world. Long Xianxing said. The Nine Dark King was waiting for the commander to be stuck at a bottleneck, while she has room for improvement. Now, the commander is also at the same level, but there is a huge gap in their combat power. She will always be suppressed. Xian Wenxiu nodded. He was very envious of Night Sorrow. He had entered the Saint King realm at such a young age, while he had cultivated for thousands of years. Inform everyone that this is a joyous occasion. Both worlds should celebrate. Long Xianxing said. Chapter 934. After the lightning tribulation passed, the multicolored light arrived. Within the multicolored light, there was a golden light that made people respect it. Whether it was the multicolored light that could increase his strength or the power of virtue, they were all rewards for passing the lightning tribulation. Night Sorrow accepted them all and continued to cultivate. No one left. They were all cultivators, and they all had patience. Naturally, they would wait for Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow cultivated for 4 days. During these 4 days, Night Sorrow's cultivation base stabilized slightly. He also sealed the multicolored light and the light of virtue in his body. In truth, the only thing that could disappear was the multicolored light that could help increase his cultivation base. After the light of virtue entered Night Sorrow's body, it directly merged with the light of virtue outside his spirit sea. It stayed very stable in Night Sorrow's body. Standing up, Night Sorrow stretched his neck and waist. Only then did he walk over to Long Xianxing and the others. Congratulations, Commander. Long Xianxing and the others cupped their fists to Night Sorrow. Thank you, seniors, for guarding this place for me. Night Sorrow also cupped his fists in return. After 10,000 years, a Sage King has appeared in our Nine Regions world once more. Furthermore, he's the ruler of the Nine Regions world. We'll have some confidence in dealing with the 10,000-year calamity, said Long Xianxing. It really wasn't easy. Heavenly Underworld Saint was also full of smiles. Night Sorrow nodded to his parents and 3 fiancés who were worried about him. At the start, he didn't say anything because he was afraid that they would be worried. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. After returning to Sky City, Yi Wuyo arranged for people to hold a banquet. Such a big matter naturally had to be celebrated with wine. 3 days later, the Nine Regions world and the Profound Mysteries world learned that Night Sorrow had become a Sage King. Night Sorrow didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but everyone thought that it was a good thing to inspire people and announce it to the world. The birth of a holy king was already a legend. In the past 10,000 years, no holy king had been born. One could only imagine what kind of concept a holy king was. The main reason was because Night Sorrow was still young. If not for the acceleration of the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow would only be in his 30s. Even with the acceleration of the space-time pagoda, he would only be in his 40s. This was a very tender age in the world of cultivation. After resting with his family for a few days, Night Sorrow went into retreat to consolidate his cultivation. Having just broken through to the Saint King realm, Night Sorrow's cultivation was still quite unstable. Forever and ever a free #look. All this while, I thought that if I want to return to my original state, I would have to be able to calm down and stabilize myself. But in the end, I still took the wrong path. Long Xianxing, who was drinking tea together with Xian Wenxiu, said. The commander has lived the life of an ordinary person for 7 years and has reached the state of returning to his original state. We should also give it a try. Let's walk around and see the world. Maybe we can gain something from it. Xian Wenxiu said. Actually, the best way is to go to the Saint Hall to accompany those children. Are you guys going? Long Xianxing looked at Xian Wenxiu, Heavenly Underworld Saint, and Shang Luo. In the end, the 4 peak saints decided to move. Cultivating in seclusion wasn't enough. They had to find the right path. Night Sorrow went to cultivate. Those who were approved by Night Sorrow also entered the Space-Time Pagoda to cultivate. Night Sorrow cultivated in the Space-Time Pagoda for 7 days in the real world before coming out. After cultivating in the Space-Time Pagoda for 2 months, his cultivation was already very stable. Furthermore, he had just broken through, so it wasn't suitable for him to raise his cultivation too quickly. As for the 9 Dark King, Night Sorrow wasn't worried at all. As long as the 9 Dark King hadn't entered the intermediate Saint King realm, he could fight and even kill him. The 9 Dark King had only entered the Saint King realm for 7 years. It would be difficult for him to even advance 1 level because the Saint King realm required too much energy. 7 years was nothing. Night Sorrow walked around the 9 regions world again. When he arrived at the Night Moon City, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and bought some good wine and tea before going to Baiyou City. The last time he saw his grandfather's family, it was when they went to Sky City. It wasn't appropriate for him to not visit them even once. When he arrived at Baiyou City's City Lord Mansion, Night Sorrow was warmly welcomed. However, Night Sorrow once again experienced the Yu family style. His grandfather and uncle were 2 clowns. Fortunately, his grandmother was there. Otherwise, Night Sorrow would have fainted. Then, Night Sorrow went to the Holy Hall. When he arrived at the Holy Hall, Night Sorrow was stunned. He didn't know what was going on. This was because the 4 peak saints of the 2 worlds each had a reclining chair. They were all basking in the sun at the edge of the Holy Hall's martial arts practice field. Night Sorrow was very happy about this situation. With a few people here, the level of guidance for the children would be higher and they would avoid taking many detours. After staying in the Holy Hall for 2 days, Night Sorrow went to Medicine Valley again. At this time, the Medicine Valley was completely different from more than 10 years ago. The major sects couldn't shake its position as the #1 sect in the Eastern Xian domain. The Medicine Valley had enough resources and a few people had entered the Venerable Realm. Yan Beibei, Duan Lei, Gong Xian, and Yi Xiling had all entered the Venerable Realm. Apart from Night Sorrow, the Medicine Valley already had 7 Venerables. In addition, after entering the Venerable Realm, the Medicine Valley had Dragon Spirit Pills, so the Venerable Realm's cultivation would increase very quickly. Yu Yongyu, Hua Yunpeng, and the Great Elder had all entered the mid-level Venerable Realm. Yu Yongyu had even reached the peak level 5 Venerable Realm. After leaving some Spirit Stones and Dragon Spirit Pills for the Medicine Valley, Night Sorrow left the Medicine Valley and went to the Supreme River Space. Then, he was teleported to the spatial passage of the Nether Realm. After passing through the 1000 Derivation Killing Formation, Night Sorrow entered the Nether Realm. After checking that the 1000 Derivation Illusionary Formation and the 1000 Derivation Killing Formation were fine, Night Sorrow continued to fly forward. This time, Night Sorrow flew along the spatial barrier of the Nether Realm. His goal was to find Spirit Stones. Because in the past 7 years, the Space-Time Pagoda had consumed a lot of energy. He had already used half of the top-grade Spirit Stones that he had filled. Night Sorrow flew along the spatial barrier of the Nether Realm. When he saw Spirit Stones, he directly dug them out without holding back. The Spirit Stones that were close to the spatial barrier did not affect the spatial world. Even if they did, Night Sorrow would dig them out without hesitation. Night Sorrow used close to 3 months to dig out all the Spirit Stones that were close to the spatial barrier of the Nether Realm. He had dug out more than 5,000 top-grade Spirit Stones. This number was astronomical because top-grade Spirit Stones were too rare in the market. As for the top-grade Spirit Stones, Night Sorrow had put them in a few storage rings and did not count them. When Night Sorrow's original body was digging out Spirit Stones, his doppelganger was still monitoring the entrance of the Nether Abyss. As long as the 9 Dark King appeared, Night Sorrow's original body would go over. However, Night Sorrow felt that if the 9 Dark King did not have the strength to protect himself, he would not come out easily. People who had cultivated for countless years had amazing endurance. After that, Night Sorrow returned to the Supreme River Space and directly teleported to the bottom of Supreme Sky City. Night Sorrow checked the stability of the array. Supreme Sky City and the Heaven-Sealing Great Hall were the core of the 9 Domains world. Nothing could happen to them. In addition, 7 years had passed, but Night Sorrow did not bring anyone into the Heaven-Sealing Great Hall to get a title. This was because the repaired regions of the 9 Domains world were stabilizing. The 9 Domains origin energy was fusing and the laws were becoming complete. The 9 Domains origin energy could not be consumed. Speak. Chapter 935. Night Sorrow did not mention anything about the title, so no one asked. If it was suitable, Night Sorrow would say it. If Night Sorrow did not say it, it was not suitable. It still needs some time before the Heaven-Sealing Hall can open naturally without any consumption. However, it still needs time to perfect the laws. The 9 regions' origin energy communicated with Night Sorrow. Can you estimate how long the massacre will last? How much time can you give us? Night Sorrow asked. Less than 100 years, the 9 regions' origin energy said to Night Sorrow. How much can the laws of the 9 regions world be perfected in 100 years? Night Sorrow asked the question he was most concerned about. It's hard to say. It's a conservative estimate. If you double the time acceleration, you'll need around 1 top-grade spirit stone per day in the outside world. That's equivalent to 100 high-grade spirit stones. If you cultivate for a long time, will you be able to endure it? Xiaofan asked Night Sorrow. I'll endure it first. If I can't endure it, then we'll talk about it. I really need time, Night Sorrow said. Then, Night Sorrow took out the high-grade spirit stones he had stored in the Nether Realm. There were close to 20,000 high-grade spirit stones. So many! Xiaofan looked at the high-grade spirit stones on the ground and said in surprise. I dug them out in the Nether Realm. You can use them first. If it's not enough, I'll add more top-grade spirit stones. Night Sorrow did not care about the consumption of spirit stones. The 9 regions' origin energy said that it would take 100 years, but cultivators needed a long time to consolidate their cultivation. In fact, Night Sorrow only had a portion of the time to cultivate. 10 times the time acceleration was not enough for Night Sorrow, so he had to speed it up. Xiaofan did everything according to Night Sorrow's plan. After sitting down cross-legged in the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow thought about the advancement of the Myriad Tao scripture. Cultivating the Myriad Tao scripture was a body-tempering cultivation. There was no such thing as a true energy core or a core soul. To enter the Saint King realm, he needed to evolve his divine core into a divine soul. After 7 years of cultivation, Night Sorrow's soul power had become very strong. He was now fully capable of taking this step. After cultivating for a month, he felt that the time was right. Not wanting to disturb the Night Sorrow, he left the space-time pagoda and the city in the sky. He entered the wilderness outside the city in the sky, and set up a 1,000 derivation illusory array before entering seclusion to break through. With the experience of true chi breakthrough, Night Sorrow's breakthrough this time was very easy. The following lightning tribulation did not bring him any danger because he had Saint King level true chi, so he could use his true chi cultivation to resist the lightning tribulation. After stabilizing his cultivation base for 2 days, Night Sorrow returned to Sky City. Next, he entered the space-time pagoda to begin cultivating. No one knew that Night Sorrow had made another breakthrough. Now, everyone was nervously cultivating. Night Sorrow cultivated for 10 years. More than half a year had passed in the real world. His cultivation base had risen to the late 1-star Saint King realm. However, he had used up all his high-grade spirit stones. Night Sorrow came out of seclusion. First, he wanted to relax and ease his mind. Second, he wanted to spend some time with his parents and wife. Night Sorrow also chased everyone out of the space-time pagoda. He did not want to see any instability in his cultivation base. Everything in the 9 regions world was developing normally. Night Sorrow tried to use the spatial crack to break through space. He found that the difficulty had increased. In other words, the spatial barrier was increasing. After resting for a while and spending some time with his family, Night Sorrow decided to consolidate his cultivation base. He thought of a way to consolidate his cultivation base. That was to break through the spatial barrier and rush out of the 9 regions world. He would use the high-intensity spatial turbulence to temper his cultivation base. This was also a hint that the 9 regions' origin energy had given him. Knight Sorrow wanted to consolidate his cultivation base. So did everyone else. The city in the sky became lively. Everyone chatted and drank tea together. Wu Lingfei also returned from the East Snow Mountain. She had broken through and become a 7-star saint. She was already a high-level saint. After leaving the city in the sky, Knight Sorrow went to Haotian City. He entered the bottom of Haotian Mountain and broke through the spatial barrier of the 9 regions world. Then, he entered the spatial turbulence outside the 9 regions world. At this time, Knight Sorrow had a true understanding of the spatial turbulence. When one tore through space in the 9 regions world, one would enter the spatial turbulence inside the 9 regions world. The spatial turbulence was average. However, the spatial turbulence outside the 9 regions world was terrifying. It could be said that it was a spatial turbulence storm that could crush everything. It was a storm that fused together with all the elemental laws. It could annihilate everything. Knight Sorrow was only a few dozen feet away from the 9 regions world to hone his cultivation base. If he went further, he would not be cultivating. He would be courting death. When his vital chi and the energy of the myriad Tao Tome were exhausted, Knight Sorrow would return to the 9 regions world. Then, he would enter the space-time pagoda to accelerate time to recover his cultivation base. Then, he would enter the spatial turbulence again to hone his cultivation base. Knight Sorrow's cultivation method was the most time-saving. In other words, he did not waste much time on recovery. What he wasted was entering the spatial turbulence to hone his cultivation base. After cultivating day and night, when he was tired, Knight Sorrow would drink tea in the space-time pagoda and sleep. Then, he would enter the spatial turbulence again to hone his cultivation base. This was a kind of persistence. This was a kind of tenacity. It was also a kind of persistence. At the beginning, Knight Sorrow felt that it was okay to suffer a little now. He could protect his family and the people around him. He could give stability to the 9 regions world. The suffering was worth it. After cultivating for nearly half a year, his cultivation base had stabilized. He had even improved a little. When he reached the peak of the 1-star Saint King realm, Knight Sorrow returned to the city in the sky. This made Long Xianxing and Xian Wenxiu, who had agreed to go fishing in the lake of the city in the sky, very shocked. Speak. Chapter 936. Commander, it's only been a year and a half since you broke through to the Saint King realm. You're already at the peak of 1-star Saint King realm. Don't be too impatient. Xian Wenxiu looked at Knight Sorrow and said, Time is tight. It's certain that the great massacre of the profound heaven world will happen within 100 years. At that time, there will be Saint Kings descending. If I'm an ordinary cultivator, I can live in seclusion. But I'm the commander. Knight Sorrow said. Long Xiansheng and Xian Wenxiu looked at each other and sighed. They felt ashamed because the older generation couldn't shoulder the burden. All the pressure fell on Knight Sorrow. Knight Sorrow, according to your comprehension, Xian Wenxiu and I have a deeper understanding of returning to one's origin. If we have enough time, we will also have a chance to enter the Saint King realm. At that time, even if we can't fight against the leaders, we will still be a force to be reckoned with. Long Xianxing looked at Knight Sorrow and said, Seniors, try to comprehend your realms first. If you break through, then enter the space-time pagoda to cultivate. Although spirit stones are scarce, I will think of a way. Knight Sorrow said. If we can really enter the Saint King realm, we will need time. But we will need spirit stones. We will think of a way. Long Xianxing said. Knight Sorrow nodded. The lack of spirit stones was indeed a big problem. Although Knight Sorrow's resources were still very abundant, he would need to consume a large amount of resources in the next 100 years. The space-time pagoda's effect was strong, but the consumption was also huge. Knight Sorrow rested for 2 days and placed the space-time pagoda beside the lake. He then entered the space-time pagoda to cultivate. As for other people entering the space-time pagoda, Shao Kong had the ability to distinguish who could enter. The days passed peacefully. After cultivating for half a year in the space-time pagoda, Knight Sorrow entered the 2-star Saint King realm in less than half a month in the real world. It was the same for the myriad Tao Tome. He used the life spirit liquid to cultivate. At this time, He no longer considered the problem of saving resources. Yi Shang cultivated steadily. 20 years had passed in the space-time treasure pagoda, which was more than a year in the real world. Yi Shang chased Xuexi, who had become a 9-star saint, out of the space-time treasure pagoda so that she could consolidate her cultivation. 9-star saints needed to stabilize their cultivation base and work hard to raise their cultivation base. Xuexi's cultivation had increased by more than half a minor realm, but even though Yi Shang had cultivated twice as long as Xuexi, his cultivation had only increased by half a minor realm, mainly because the Saint King realm required too much cultivation. However, Night Sorrow did not intend to continue charging forward. After sending everyone out of the space-time pagoda to consolidate their cultivation, Night Sorrow returned to Clear Sky City to consolidate his cultivation. For convenience's sake, Night Sorrow had set up a teleportation formation at the edge of the Realm Sea. It was a private formation protected by the 1000 Derivation Illusory Formation, and only Night Sorrow could use it. Yi Shang's cultivation base was stabilized in the turbulent flow of space and recovered in the pagoda of time and space. In this state, Yi Shang's cultivation base increased as he stabilized. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were talking in their house in Sky City. Little F said, "Wuyo, our son is like this now. It's too heartbreaking. He doesn't have a child." Yu Qing said what was on her mind. "Our son is working hard. Let's not talk about things that will upset him. Let nature take its course," Yi Wuyo said. While Yi Wuyo and Qing Ji were chatting, Xikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Qing Ji, who had come out to relax, came to the two's residence to pay their respects. Night Sorrow only knows how to cultivate every day. It's been hard on you. He doesn't spend time with you. Yu Qing apologized on behalf of her son. "Mother, it's not like that. When we cultivate in the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow often comes to drink tea with us," Aoi said. "Is that so? That's not bad. You guys should work hard too. Our Yi family needs to have more children," Yu Qing said. "Maybe it's because Night Sorrow's body is too strong. His future children are very talented. That's why it's not so easy," Aoi said with a red face. "I thought that he would have more children with 3 wives. Now it seems that it's all just a matter of time." Yu Qing sighed. "What are you mumbling about?" "Son, the 3 of them are all high-level venerables with laws. They have long lifespans. It's just a matter of time." Yi Wuyo glanced at his wife. Yu Qing nodded and didn't say anything else. Afterward, Aoi and the others went to Dongxian City to bring Yin Yanxiao back. Yin Yanxiao was already a big girl, and her cultivation base had reached the peak of the 4th rank. Her talent was high, and with her abundant resources, her cultivation base naturally rose quickly. "Where's my brother? Don't tell me he's still cultivating?" Yin Yanxiao looked around and didn't see Night Sorrow after returning to her parents' residence. "Your brother has a lot of responsibilities. There's nothing he can do about it." "How has he been in the Sacred Hall recently?" asked Yi Wuyo. "The teachers organized trials for us. I always had the best results. I even went to Medicine Valley's Pill Cauldron Cliff. I also climbed the highest." Yin Yanxiao waved her hand. "Do it steadily. Don't be too competitive," reminded Yi Wuyo. "I will. Those companions don't have it easy. We're all very close. It's just that Ning Yun who needs to be taught a lesson," said Yin Yanxiao. "Didn't your brother say that if he wanted to take a disciple, it had to be his kid?" "Not bad," said Yu Qing. "Not bad? What do you mean by that?" "He's always complaining that I don't bring them to Sky City." "I'm so annoyed," said Yin Yanxiao. "What's wrong with that? You can bring them here." Yu Qing scolded her daughter. "All right then. My brother hasn't been going to the Sacred Hall recently. My companions all miss him," said Yin Yanxiao. "When we see him again we'll bring this up. However, your brother is very concerned about time. Time is very important to him," said Xikong Chuyu. After cultivating in the chaotic streams of space for half a year and stabilizing his cultivation base, he reached the late-stage 2nd Star Saint realm. Only then did Night Sorrow return to the city in the sky, and place the space-time pagoda by the lake once more. Anyone who wished to enter could enter. When Xikong Chuyu and the others saw Night Sorrow, they suggested going out for a walk. "Let's go to the Eastern Xian region. I'll go see the children of the Sacred Hall and pay my respects to Master," said Night Sorrow. Seeing Night Sorrow arrive, the children of the Sacred Hall all cheered. In truth, they couldn't really be considered children. They were all teenagers. Night Sorrow waved his hand and led the children of the Sacred Hall to the restaurants in Dongxian City. This was the happiest moment for the children of the Sacred Hall. It was also the happiest moment for the commoners of Dongxian City. Being able to see their commander and the happy children was a kind of satisfaction and happiness. Just as Night Sorrow was about to go to the Medicine Valley, his expression changed. That was because his clone outside the Netherworld Abyss had discovered the 9 Underworld King's figure. Speak. Chapter 937. Wait for me in the Sacred Hall. Night Sorrow said to Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, and Aoi. He directly went to the teleportation formation and started the teleportation. What's going on? Yin Yan asked with a smile. She was following beside Night Sorrow and Sikong Chuyu. Something might have happened. But don't worry. Right now, there's no one who can threaten your brother's safety. Aoi said to Yin Yan with a smile. After teleporting to the entrance of the spatial tunnel, Night Sorrow hurried towards the Nether Abyss. The 9 Underworld Monarch flew towards the nearest city after leaving the Nether Abyss. She needed to cultivate as well as live. Recently, she had been lacking in resources, so she needed to make up for it. Night Sorrow's soul clone followed behind. It had to be said that the 9 Underworld Monarch's cultivation had risen very quickly. She had already become a 2-star Holy King. The main reason was because she had been stuck at a bottleneck in the past. She had accumulated a lot of experience, just like how Wu Lingfei had quickly become a 2-star Holy King. If she was a 1-star Holy King, Night Sorrow's clone would have killed her. But she was a 2-star Holy King. Night Sorrow had to be careful. If she ran back to the Nether Abyss, then his plan to kill her would fail. After all, there was a difference between the main body and the clone. In addition, Night Sorrow had to make sure nothing went wrong. When the 9 Underworld Monarch got some daily necessities from the nearest city and hurried towards the Nether Abyss, Night Sorrow's main body met up with his clone. Night Sorrow's main body flickered and blocked the 9 Underworld Monarch's path with his reincarnation spear. His soul clone stood to the side. When his cultivation was not as high as the 9 Underworld Monarch's, Night Sorrow dared to fight. Now that his cultivation had surpassed the 9 Underworld Monarch's, he did not need to use his clone. Late 2-star Holy King? Impossible. The 9 Underworld Monarch was astonished when she saw Night Sorrow's cultivation. She could not believe her eyes. Nothing is impossible. Back then, I was able to fight you even before I reached the Saint King realm. Now that I am a 2-star Saint King, you are even less of a match for me, Night Sorrow said. You really won't go away. Is it not enough that we won the war? Do you want to kill us all? Hades 9 waved the scimitar in his hand. I'm not trying to kill all of you. I'm not a murderous person. I just want to solve the problem between the two worlds once and for all, and you're the only stumbling block, Night Sorrow said. You're still a bloodthirsty person. Don't you know how many Nether Realm beings you've killed? The 9 Abyss King roared. Our 9-domain world has records that the Nether Realm has attacked the 9-domain world more than once or twice. This time, it was you who sent the Nether Beasts into the 9-domain world first. It was you who wanted to keep attacking, so I have to end this once and for all. Night Sorrow looked at 9 Hades King and said. Then let's fight. If you can kill this king, no one will be able to stop you. The 9 Abyss King's golden skirt trembled, and energy gathered on the scimitar in her hand. I don't have to kill you. Just submit. As long as you submit, you'll still be the king of the 9-domain world, said Night Sorrow after thinking for a moment. Impossible. This king would rather die in battle. This king can't bow. 9 Abyss King charged at Night Sorrow. His scimitar was covered in black and red flames. That was the fusion of death energy and the peak of fire energy. You still have value. Your value is that you can lead the Nether Realm. If you don't submit, then once I'm done with you, I'll slaughter all the Nether Realm and unify the Nether Realm. Night Sorrow waved his spear, forcing 9 Abyss King back. 9 Abyss King discovered that the gap between her and Night Sorrow was very big. Night Sorrow had easily forced her back with a single spear strike. She wanted both of them to suffer, but it was impossible for her to take him down with her. Why official V edition first release, War is War. Is there a need to exterminate a race? 9 Abyss King roared angrily. She continued to attack. She was very angry. Although she wasn't afraid of death, she didn't want to see the Nether race being exterminated. If I can't rule, then I can only exterminate. I'm the 9 Domain World's commander. I must think for the 9 Domain World. I'll kill anyone who threatens the 9 Domain World. Knight Sorrow's body flashed as he spear after spear, forcing 9 Abyss King back. 9 Abyss King's internal organs were shaken, and a dark red color appeared at the corner of her mouth. Knight Sorrow's true chi cultivation was already higher than 9 Abyss King's. In addition, his 10,000 Paths treasured book cultivation was also at the late stage of the 2-star Sage realm. This wasn't a 1+1 comparison. He could completely crush 9 Abyss King. In addition, Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear also had an attack amplification effect. 9 Abyss King had no chance of resisting. 9 Abyss King didn't say anything after being pointed out by Knight Sorrow. She just continued to attack Knight Sorrow with her blade. Knight Sorrow didn't directly use his killing move because he felt that 9 Abyss King still had some value. It would be best if she could submit. Whether it was to rule the Nether realm or in terms of battle strength, she would be a great help. 9 Abyss King's true chi was unstable from the continuous attacks. Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear vibrated and knocked away 9 Abyss King's scimitar. He then whipped 9 Abyss King's shoulder and broke her collarbone. 9 Abyss King was forced to kneel on the ground. Don't kill yourself yet. Let me finish speaking first. You can choose for yourself. Knight Sorrow's reincarnation spear pressed down on 9 Abyss King's shoulder as she looked at him, who was about to self-destruct. Speak. 9 Abyss King glared hatefully at Knight Sorrow. If you submit, the Nether realm will still be ruled by you. All you need to do is obey orders. The Nether race and other races can still exist. Aside from obeying orders, there is nothing else. If you self-destruct, then the Nether realm, which has almost no saints, is meaningless to the 9 regions world. We can only slaughter everyone and take the territory, Knight Sorrow said. Why should I believe you? 9 Abyss King's eyes were still cold. How about this? I'll give you a chance. A few years ago, the 9 regions world had a realm war with the Profound Mysteries realm. Do you want to know the current situation of the cultivators in the Profound Mysteries realm? Swear on your world's origin that you will wait for me at the spatial passage in 3 months. I'll let you go to the Profound Mysteries realm and take a look. Also, you are not allowed to harm anything in the Profound Mysteries realm, Knight Sorrow said. Humph. 9 Abyss King forcibly endured Knight Sorrow's spear and stood up. Then, he swore on his world's origin that he would wait for Knight Sorrow at the spatial passage in 3 months. Looking at 9 Abyss King, Knight Sorrow brought him through the spatial passage and sent him to the Profound Mysteries realm. Then, he returned to the Eastern Xian region. His 3 wives were still waiting for him. When Knight Sorrow arrived at the sacred hall, Sikong Chuyu and the others were anxiously waiting for him. Did something happen? Yang Lei walked over to Knight Sorrow and examined him. Knight Sorrow's robes were stained with blood. When Knight Sorrow had fought 9 Abyss King, he hadn't used a protective barrier. So when 9 Abyss King's collarbone had been broken, the blood had splashed onto Knight Sorrow's body. Nothing happened. I just saw 9 Abyss King, so I took care of it, said Knight Sorrow. Speak. Chapter 10. Chapter 938. Underworld Monarch 9 Did you go and fight him? What happened? Yang Lei asked anxiously. She needs 3 months to choose whether to submit or die. I sent her to the Profound Mysteries realm to take a look. Knight Sorrow explained what had happened in detail. It's a good thing that she's here, but she's the leader of a realm and a saint king. You have to be careful. She might try to play tricks on you. Sikong Chuyu reminded Knight Sorrow. I've thought about it. There won't be any problems. Besides, the Profound Sky World's calamity is coming. It's good for us to have another Saint King to help us. It's rare to have such an expert. Knight Sorrow explained why he hadn't killed 9 Pluto directly. 9 Pluto was far stronger than a peak saint. Knight Sorrow felt that if she was given time, she could still improve a lot. She could play a big role in the calamity. Sikong Chuyu and the other two nodded. They knew that Knight Sorrow's decision was right. Besides, 9 Pluto's existence was very important to the Netherrealm's rule. Let's not talk about this for now. We'll tell the others when there's a result. Knight Sorrow told the three girls. Knight Sorrow went to the Medicine Valley to visit his master. After seeing his senior brother who was guarding the Medicine Valley, he returned to the city in the sky. He told Knight Sorrow that he had something to do in 3 months and called for him at the Time and Space Pagoda 2 days in advance. Knight Sorrow entered the Time and Space Pagoda and began to cultivate. The days of cultivation were boring, but Knight Sorrow was still in high spirits because he could feel his cultivation increasing. Knight Sorrow used a year to raise his cultivation to the peak of the 2-star Saint realm. The Myriad Dao treasured tome also followed at the same time. Knight Sorrow stayed with the girls on the 61st floor of the Time and Space Pagoda for a few days before returning to the Time and Space Pagoda. He then raised his cultivation to the 3-star Saint King realm and stabilized it. After stabilizing his cultivation base, Knight Sorrow continued to increase his cultivation base. Because his cultivation base had been very stable in the chaotic streams of space, there were no drawbacks. This cultivation lasted for 1.5 years. Yiling Lan had to shout from outside the space-time treasure pagoda. Only then did Yiling Lan come out of seclusion on Knight Sorrow. He knew that it was time to meet the 9 underworld monarch. After that, Knight Sorrow packed up and rushed towards the Netherworld's passageway. At this moment, the 9 dark monarch was meditating outside the 1,000 derivation killing array. She was feeling very complicated. She hoped that Knight Sorrow would forget the time, and then her vow would be invalid. If the vow was invalid, she could leave and find a place to hide. In fact, there was one thing that 9 Dark King did not know. With the array, she could not return to the Netherrealm, and she could not hide in the Supreme River space. At the same time, she could not enter the 9-domain world or the Profound Mysteries realm. Even if she did enter, it would be useless. They were Knight Sorrow's territory, and she had nowhere to hide. As the ruler of the 9-domain world, Knight Sorrow's control over the 9-domain world and its affiliated space was extremely strong. It would be easy for him to find the 9 Dark King. In addition, the 9 Dark King saw that the Profound Mysteries realm was very stable. Everything was fine. It did not look like a world that had been defeated. She also clearly knew that the Profound Mysteries realm had been beaten to a pulp back then. In this situation, the 9 Dark King was in a dilemma. She had her pride and dignity, and she did not want to submit. If she did not submit, then she knew that Knight Sorrow would definitely carry out a massacre in the Nether realm. This was not something she wanted to see. She did not want to become a sinner. Just as the 9 Dark King was thinking, the white-robed Knight Sorrow passed through the 1,000 derivation killing array and walked out of the spatial passageway. Knight Sorrow was directly teleported to the spatial passageway, while the 9 Dark King flew over from the Medicine Valley. The meditating 9 Dark King stood up. When she saw that Knight Sorrow was a 3-star holy king, her eyes were filled with disbelief. It had only been 3 months since they last saw each other, and Knight Sorrow's cultivation had increased again. Knight Sorrow took out a jar of wine and threw it to the 9 Dark King. He opened his own jar and took a sip. Free of charge. Look at little Y, say Z. I don't dare to drink. If you don't submit, then this wine is a farewell wine. If you submit, then it will be a celebratory wine. Knight Sorrow looked at the hesitant 9 Dark King and said. After sizing up Knight Sorrow, the 9 Dark King opened the jar and drank 2 mouthfuls of wine. War brings destruction and pain. This is unavoidable. The only thing that can be avoided is to not have war. Your submission is actually a blessing for the Netherrealm. It is also atonement for you because the current state of the Netherrealm was caused by the wrong decision of the Netherrealm. You have the responsibility to rebuild the Netherrealm and restore it, Knight Sorrow said. Then isn't that the same as being enslaved by the 9-domain world? Said the 9 Dark King coldly. Think before you say that. Why would I want you to go to the Profound Mysteries realm? Don't you know that the 9-domain world has enslaved the Profound Mysteries realm and taken away what they have? The reason I want you to submit is to avoid future war. What are you thinking? Knight Sorrow's aura fluctuated. He was losing his patience. This king's submission means the Netherrealm submission. How much can you do? Asked the 9 Dark King to Knight Sorrow. The Netherrealm will still be under your rule. But when I need to fight, the Nether Realm will have to cooperate unconditionally. You can't have the slightest thought of harming the 9-domain world, said Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow didn't really have any thoughts of conquering the Nether Realm. That was because the Nether Realm situation wasn't suitable for the 9-domain world's people to rule and develop. If the Nether Realm could submit and become a subsidiary world, that would be enough for Night Sorrow. The 9 Dark King sank into deep thought. Night Sorrow's conditions weren't too harsh. Between her own death, the slaughter of the Nether Realm, and the submission of the Nether Realm, she knew which was more important. She just wasn't willing to submit. The Nether Realm can submit under my command, but I'll be the only one fighting for you. I can't lead the other Nether Realm people to their deaths. The Nether Realm no longer has any high-level cultivators. If we fight again, it'll be no different from the extermination of our race, said the 9 Dark King after a moment of hesitation. Night Sorrow thought for a moment. Then swear a heavenly Tao oath. I, 9 Dark King Zhu Jiuyun, will submit to Night Sorrow from today onwards. I will listen to Night Sorrow's orders and lead the Nether Realm to not harm the 9-domain world. The 9 Dark King, or Zhu Jiuyun, swore a heavenly Tao oath. It was similar to Night Sorrow's request. The only difference was that on the basis of not harming the 9-domain world, she would personally submit to Night Sorrow. Since you're so careful, I won't bicker with you. How long will it take for you to reorganize the Nether Realm? Asked Night Sorrow. I'll arrange for people to deal with it. I still need to cultivate. It will take some time for the soul avatar to be born. Once the avatar is born, the main body will be at your disposal. Remember your promise to not harm the Nether Realm, said the 9 Dark King. I'll give you 10 years. After 10 years, crush my messaging crystal. I'll send you back to the Nether Realm right now. After saying that, Night Sorrow waved his sleeve and brought the 9 Dark King into the Nether Realm. He then brought the 9 Dark King through the Great Array. All right, I, Zhu Jiuyun, admit defeat. I'll follow the heavenly Tao oath. After saying that, Zhu Jiuyun left the spatial passage. Night Sorrow was very happy. This could be considered as solving a big problem. Speak. Chapter 939. Night Sorrow went to the Saint Hall and called Long Shenxing, the 4 Peak Saints, as well as Tai Shu Yan, Lu Qin, and Jun Xuanji. He then told them about how he had dealt with the 9 Dark King. Very good. That means the Nether Realm won't be a hidden danger, Long Shenxing said. It's good for now, but there are still some drawbacks. I'll take a look at it later. Night Sorrow felt that he had to control the Nether Realm saints, so he had to communicate with the 9 Dark King later. You can deal with it as you see fit. Only you can subdue the 9 Dark King, no one else can, Long Shenxing nodded. Night Sorrow left the eastern Xian region and returned to the city in the sky to cultivate in seclusion. What he needed now was time to increase his cultivation. The 9 regions' origins had told Yi Shang that the 3 great Saint Kings had all been high-level Saint Kings back then. Even so, they had still lost. Although Yi Shang was now the ruler of the 9 regions' world, his cultivation level had to be raised to a high-level Saint King, or perhaps a peak Saint King to have a greater chance. Only then would he be able to crush the cultivators of the profound sky world who entered the 9 regions' world. Night Sorrow was also working towards this goal. The stronger he was, the more confident he would be. Time passed slowly. Night Sorrow's cultivation increased rapidly, but it was not weak at all. Every time he increased his cultivation, Night Sorrow would go to Clear Sky City, pass through the spatial barrier, and enter the deep spatial turbulence to cultivate. Every time he came, Night Sorrow would bring the space-time pagoda with him so that the people inside could continue to cultivate, and he would not delay his recovery. 5 years had passed in the real world, and Night Sorrow had cultivated for more than 60 years. Normally, with the space-time pagoda's 20x time acceleration, Night Sorrow could cultivate for 100 years. However, almost half of the time was used by Night Sorrow to stabilize his cultivation. After sensing his cultivation that had just broken through to 5-star Holy King, Yi Shang stopped fighting and continued to charge forward. He needed to calm his state of mind. All these years, he had been paying attention to stabilizing his cultivation and making it solid. However, being in a state of high tension all the time was not suitable for his state of mind. After coming out of seclusion, Night Sorrow also brought out everyone from the space-time pagoda. Looking at the group of people who were full of energy, Knight Sorrow was very satisfied. Xuexi was a 9-star saint. Wu Lingfei was also a star saint. Yi Wuyo and Yu Qing were also middle-level saints. Saints improved their cultivation quickly mainly because they could enjoy the acceleration of time in the space-time pagoda after entering the saint stage. Tai Shuyan and Jun Xuanji's cultivation improved rapidly as well. The two of them were slightly slower than Knight Sorrow's parents, but they were also 3-star saints. Yi Linghuan was also a middle-level saint, and his cultivation was slightly higher than Yi Wuyo and his wife. Other than Ma Zhuang, Tang Tian, and Chu Ning, the rest of the god-slaying team's cultivation improved rapidly as well. After all, they could not use the dragon spirit pill before entering the saint stage. However, Ma Zhuang and the other two were also at the peak of the 5th stage. As for the dragon spirit pill, Knight Sorrow had refined some using the blood of the 4-clawed silver dragon. Therefore, he still had a lot of dragon spirit pills in reserve. We've been cultivating intensely for a while. Everyone needs to rest. God-slaying team, go take a walk in the Holy Hall and guide the students there. Yi Shan looked at Liang Yu, Yun Huang, and the others, who were already high-level venerables, and said, "Okay, then we'll take a walk." Xueling nodded. "You are not allowed to come back for 2 years. You have to stabilize your cultivation and stabilize your mental states," Knight Sorrow said to the group of people again. The members of the god-slaying team bowed to Knight Sorrow and left. However, Knight Sorrow's 3 fiancés stayed behind. The family needed to gather. They don't need that long to stabilize their cultivation, right? Jun Xuanji asked. They don't have the opportunity to come into contact with the laws at the moment, so they should stabilize their cultivation properly. Otherwise, if they rush to improve their cultivation, they will still be stuck at the bottleneck. Therefore, there's not much point in quickly improving their cultivation. Knight Sorrow explained the reason for his arrangement. After hearing Knight Sorrow's words, everyone nodded. Knight Sorrow's arrangement was very reasonable. Knight Sorrow brought the rest of the people back to the mansion. Then, the group of women went to prepare food and wine. "Son, what's your cultivation now?" Yi Wuyo asked. Yi Linghuan also looked at Knight Sorrow. No one could see Knight Sorrow's cultivation clearly, so they were very curious. "I just became a 5-star Saint King. I need to stabilize my cultivation," Knight Sorrow said after thinking for a moment. 5-star Saint King is so fast. It's only been a few years, Yi Linghuan sighed. Even if you face the great massacre of 10,000 years ago, you still have the confidence, Yi Wuyo said with a smile. It's not enough. Back then, the 3 Saint Kings were high-level Saint Kings, but they couldn't withstand the enemy's attacks. Although I'm the Lord of the 9 regions world, I still have the confidence to have a higher cultivation, Knight Sorrow said. Above. Don't be anxious. You've only been cultivating for a short period of time. There's enough time, Yi Linghuan looked at Knight Sorrow and expressed his opinion. Knight Sorrow smiled and nodded. Actually, he felt that there was enough time. 100 years was only about 10 years now. This was also the reason why he came out to relax. Everyone ate happily during the banquet. Knight Sorrow was also very happy. Then, he took his 3 wives to the lake. Knight Sorrow lay on the deck chair on the wooden boat and looked at the clouds in the sky. Are you a little tired? Sikong Chuyu came to Knight Sorrow's side and massaged Knight Sorrow's shoulders. A little. I've been a little nervous during these few years of cultivation. I need to relax a little, Knight Sorrow said as he grabbed Sikong Chuyu's hand. Come, the tea is ready, Aoi called out. Drinking tea and chatting was Knight Sorrow's most comfortable time. After resting for 2 days, we'll go to the Holy Hall. Now that the Heaven-Sealing Great Hall can open, anyone who wants to get a title can go. I forgot to tell everyone today, Knight Sorrow said after drinking a cup of tea. Then we'll go after resting for 2 days. Are you going to get a Holy King title? Yonglei looked at Knight Sorrow and asked. Yes, but I still need to stabilize my cultivation. There's no rush. I don't want to fail, Knight Sorrow said with a smile. They sailed the boat on the lake and went with the flow. After resting for 2 days, Yi Shang brought his 3 wives and Xuexi to the Saint Hall. At this time, the Holy Hall was very lively. Many people from the commander's residence were here, including Long Xianxing and the other peak saints. Commander, you're here. Seeing Yi Shang, everyone greeted him. Ever since Night Sorrow had taken control of the Nine Regions world, the Nine Regions world had entered a period of rapid development. So no matter who it was, they were all very respectful to Night Sorrow. Senior Long Xianxing, Senior Xian Wenxiu, your realms are about the same. Night Sorrow was a bit surprised to see the two of them. Relax. 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 We also need to break through. We can't let you shoulder everything alone. We can't even see through your current cultivation base. At the very least, you're a 4-star holy king. You're really too fast. Perhaps that's why you're an eternal genius, or perhaps you're blessed by karmic luck, said Long Xianxing emotionally. Sikong Chuyu said. Chapter 940. There's no other way. We lack time now. If I don't work hard, we won't be able to survive the next 10,000 years of slaughter, said Night Sorrow. Everyone nodded. Capable people had more work to do. Yi Shang was now the strongest person in the 9-domain world camp, so the pressure was on him. Then Night Sorrow talked about the certification and asked Tai Shu Yen to organize it. Then Night Sorrow brought everyone along. Tai Shu Yen nodded and went to arrange for people to come. Of course, the main priority was the people from the Commander-in-Chief's residence. She also notified the Venerable from the Medicine Valley. Night Sorrow stayed in the Saint Hall and accompanied a group of Saint Hall children to practice their spear techniques. In fact, the first batch of Saint Hall members had all become youths. Their cultivations had all reached the 4th rank, and some had already reached the 5th rank. However, the hundreds of new members were still very young. Cultivating with Night Sorrow was the happiest day for the Saint Hall members. In their eyes, Night Sorrow was their parent, their most respected uncle and elder. After practicing his spear art for a while, Yi Shang led the Templars' men to the tavern in Dongxian City. After eating and drinking with a group of young men and young ladies, he brought his 3 wives and Xue Shi to Qingxin Cottage. Seeing Night Sorrow return, Ning Qingfeng and his wife were very happy. At this time, Night Sorrow was the supreme figure of the 9 regions world. It was not easy to see him, let alone live under the same roof. After relaxing for 2 days, Night Sorrow gathered the people who were going to be certified and teleported to Vast Sea City. Night Sorrow took out a flying ship and brought a group of people to Vast Sky City. Through the 1000 Derivation Grand Array and the 9 Regions Barrier, they arrived in front of the Heaven Sealing Hall. He didn't use a teleportation formation because he didn't want others to casually enter the Heaven Sealing Hall. That was an unstable factor. The titled Battle Pet Warrior certification only has a chance of passing. It's very difficult, so don't worry about whether you can pass or not. Now let's go in, Night Sorrow said to the dozens of people who had come to participate in the certification. He didn't want those who failed to feel sad. Following which, a group of people entered the Heaven Sealing Great Hall one after another. Night Sorrow took out a jar of wine and drank by himself as he waited. Night Sorrow did not have high hopes for the brothers of the God-slaying squad who had come. This was because the God-slaying squad was strong in group battles. Their individual combat strength could only be considered outstanding, but not outstanding. It would be too difficult for them to obtain a title. He did not object because he did not want to crush the confidence of his brothers. However, he still had high hopes for Guan Yi and Qin Zhen. Both of them had high attributes and they valued combat, so they had a high chance of winning. 2 hours later, people came out one after another. Just as Night Sorrow had estimated, less than half of the dozens of people who came this time had passed. Only a third had passed. Many of them had suffered a blow, but there was nothing that could be done about it. Night Sorrow led everyone back to the Sacred Hall. Night Sorrow calmed his mind. He stayed in the Sacred Hall to guide the child's cultivation. Yin Yanxiao, Ning Yun, and July were all very close to Night Sorrow. If they had any requests, Night Sorrow would satisfy them. Night Sorrow also frequently went to see Yi Shenyue and the child. When Night Sorrow visited again, the child looked seriously at Night Sorrow. I remember some things. You remember everything? Night Sorrow asked. Yes, I remember now. My surname is Yi, and I'm Yi Qianhua. I'll tell my family later. My surname won't change. Of course, they're also my parents, Yi Qianhua said, his eyes filled with memories. Then I'll leave it to you. If you need me to do anything, just let me know, Night Sorrow said. Yes, after I finish talking with them, I'll go to the Sea of Night Moon. Can you send me there? Yi Qianhua looked at Night Sorrow. All right, I'll stay in the sacred hall during this time. Night Sorrow nodded. As for how Yi Qianhua would talk with his parents, Night Sorrow didn't care. He believed that things would have a happy ending. Night Sorrow and his 3 wives stayed in the sacred hall during the day and returned to the Pure Heart courtyard at night. Xuexi was also with them. Xikong Chuyu and the other 2 women were pulling her along. The relationship between the 4 women was very good. They also understood that Night Sorrow and Xuexi just didn't have a title. They were no different from a real couple. 2 days later, Yi Qianhua found Night Sorrow. Is it done? Night Sorrow asked. It's done. They're my parents, there's no doubt about that. But I'm Yi Qianhua, they can understand, Yi Qianhua said. This is your weapon. Night Sorrow took out Yi Qianhua's sword from his previous life and handed it over. It was the only authentic version. Everything else was a pirated version. I don't need it now. Take it. Yi Qianhua didn't take it. I use spears. You've used this sword for a long time. It's convenient for you to use. Night Sorrow didn't take back his arm. After looking at Night Sorrow for a while, Yi Qianhua put away the sword. Old ancestor, I'll send you back to the Sea of Night Moon later. Yi Shenyue, who had been silent, said. Don't call me old ancestor. That was in the past. Just treat me as an ordinary night moon. Yi Qianhua shook his head. Then, Night Sorrow took out a storage ring, filled it with some spirit stones, and handed it to Yi Qianhua. Then, he sent Yi Qianhua and Yi Shenyue to the transmission array before returning to the Holy Church. Night Sorrow knew that with the understanding, state of mind, and experience of several lifetimes, Yi Qianhua would grow very quickly. All he needed was time. With enough time, he would become a peak holy king. Moreover, Night Sorrow felt that the rules of the 9 Zones world were complete now. It was no longer the era where Yi Qianhua's 9 Zones world was not even considered a high-level world. Yi Qianhua had the opportunity to improve further. After sending Yi Qianhua away, Night Sorrow went to Chen Chen's tea house. At this time, he was somewhat apologetic. Seeing Chen Chen come over, Night Sorrow cupped his hands to Chen Chen. There's no need to apologize. Chen Chen poured a cup of tea for Night Sorrow and said, I originally wanted him to live a better life. I never thought of taking him away, Night Sorrow said. I understand. If you wanted to, you would have done it long ago. In fact, no matter who he is now my child. No one can change this fact. As long as he lives well, I don't care about anything else. Besides, he still recognizes me as his father. Chen Chen nodded to Night Sorrow. I have to say, your state of mind is really good. This is the Life Spirit Liquid. It can change your physique and even repair your dantian. You can walk your own path. Night Sorrow took out more than a dozen drops of the Life Spirit Liquid and handed it to Chen Chen. In your eyes, I have finally cultivated. Chen Chen did not stand on ceremony and directly put away the Life Spirit Liquid. It's still early. There's still time. You can walk your own path. After saying that, Night Sorrow stood up and left the tea house. Looking at Night Sorrow's back, Chen Chen, who was originally very calm, felt a little complicated because he did not know what kind of life was his original path. Chen Chen also knew that as long as he walked the right path, Night Sorrow would only help him in the future, and it would not be the same as before. Speak. Third watch. Chapter 941. What are you thinking about? Qianhua's surname is Night, but he's also our child. Don't think too much. Chen Chen's wife came to his side. I understand. Do you know that the commander once called me brother and chose a path full of light for me, but I destroyed it myself? Chen Chen sighed. Actually, you don't understand. He's been very concerned about us all these years. It's not just because of the child. He still has some special feelings for you. Chen Chen's wife said. Maybe you're right, but Qianhua isn't by my side. I always feel like something is missing. Chen Chen was still a little sad. Well, I'm pregnant again. Chen Chen's wife said in a low voice. Night Sorrow returned to the Saint Hall. He was very happy that Chen Chen had changed. This was good for Yi Qianhua. He would have no regrets in the future. After staying in the Saint Hall for 2 days, Night Sorrow returned to the city in the sky and set up the space-time pagoda by the lake again. This way, people who needed it could enter directly. Night Sorrow looked around with the vision of the 9-domain world and found that there were several small spaces near the 9-domain world. After thinking for a while, Night Sorrow began to fly. After flying to the space barrier, Night Sorrow took a deep breath and passed through the space barrier. He entered the space turbulence and began to travel. This space was a little far from the 9-domain world, so it was not easy for Night Sorrow to travel there. If it was before, Night Sorrow would not dare to do this because the deep space turbulence was very scary. This was also why Night Sorrow wanted to try it once when he became a 5-star Holy King. It was not that Night Sorrow wanted to take the risk, but he did not have enough Spirit Stones. He would not use the Holy Spirit Stone. Night Sorrow used the Rule of Nothingness and the Chi of Nothingness to protect his body. The Rule of Nothingness cut forward and traveled at the fastest speed. The space storm was too violent and he could not afford to consume it. It was less than 200 feet, but it was enough for Night Sorrow to exhaust his chi. Night Sorrow was very satisfied that he could reach his destination. Then Night Sorrow began to look for Spirit Stones inside the space. He came here for Spirit Stones. After spending 2 months, Night Sorrow had collected all the Spirit Stones in the surroundings of this space. However, Night Sorrow did not find any Spirit Stones in the central area. Night Sorrow did not come to the central region of this space to look for Spirit Stones. His main purpose was to see if there were any Origin Stones. In reality, he found nothing. The 9 Realms Origin Energy told Night Sorrow that he had the 9 Realms Origin Energy in his body, which was rejected by the alternate dimension. The Spatial Origin Energy had sensed it a long time ago and had hidden itself, making it impossible to find. Night Sorrow thought for a moment and nodded. After experiencing some things, he was not an idiot. He was able to obtain the Nothingness Origin Energy because he had the Nothingness attribute. Moreover, he was able to smoothly enter the Nothingness space because the 2 worlds were very close to each other. Not counting the high-grade Spirit Stones, Night Sorrow had obtained close to 3,000 top-grade Spirit Stones. He was very satisfied with this result, and it would last him for a long time. However, he knew that this was because he had the 9 domain sources, which allowed him to sense Spirit Stones in a large area. If he had relied on himself, he would not have had such an effect. After drinking 2 mouthfuls of wine, Night Sorrow returned to the space barrier. He tore open the space, and after another struggle, returned to the 9 Realms world. After returning to the city in the sky, Night Sorrow rested with his family for a few days. Then, he began to cultivate intensely. As for when the others would return, he did not worry about it. Time passed by as Night Sorrow cultivated diligently. When he felt that his cultivation was increasing quickly, Night Sorrow would take the space-time pagoda to the bottom of Clear Sky City's Clear Sky Mountain and cultivate in the turbulent space. As for those who did not enter the space-time pagoda or could not use the space-time pagoda to cultivate under any circumstances, Night Sorrow did not care. Right now, the most important thing was to increase his cultivation. Besides, the space-time pagoda was his saint artifact, so no one would say anything. When Night Sorrow cultivated to the 6-star Saint King realm, another 5 years had passed in the real world. Night Sorrow cultivated for another few decades before he managed to increase his cultivation by 1 level. The main reason was that the Saint King realm required too much energy to cultivate by 1 level. In addition, Night Sorrow had consumed more than half of his life spirit fluid. This made his heart ache, but there was nothing he could do about it. Mora knew the fastest. This time, Night Sorrow came out of seclusion for no other reason than the time he had agreed with Dark King 9-een. He wanted to take a look. If Dark King 9-een had solved some of the problems in the Nether Realm, he would bring Dark King 9-een to the space-time pagoda to cultivate. Of course, the 2 of them still had to make some agreements. Night Sorrow arrived in the Nether Realm. He flew to the nearest city and teleported to Nether City. When he arrived in front of Nether City, Night Sorrow had just stood there for a while when Dark King 9-een appeared. Her senses as a powerhouse let her know that Night Sorrow had arrived. She remembered Night Sorrow's aura. Dark King 9-een invited Night Sorrow into the main hall of the City Lord's mansion. Her eyes were fixed on Night Sorrow because the last time they met, Night Sorrow was only a 3-star Saint King. Now, she could no longer see Night Sorrow's cultivation. She was a 2-star Saint King, so any cultivation below a 5-star Saint King could not be hidden from her. A technique to hide your cultivation? Dark King 9 asked Night Sorrow. No. As he spoke, Night Sorrow released all of his aura. Dark King 9's expression changed because Night Sorrow's aura was too powerful. It was like a sun that no one could look directly at. Then Night Sorrow withdrew his cultivation and looked at Dark King 9. At least a 6-star saint. I don't blame you for losing. My soul clone will be completed in half a month. It can handle things here, said Dark King 9. She had no intention of resisting now. There's something else that I didn't make clear last time. All saints in the Netherrealm must swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. They must not have any thoughts of rebelling against the 9-domain world. Otherwise, I will kill them all, said Night Sorrow. All right, I'll make arrangements for that. As long as you don't come in and kill, it's fine. Dark King 9 nodded. She understood Night Sorrow's request because it was an unstable factor. My soul clone will be here. There will also be peak saints patrolling. If the saints don't swear an oath to the heavenly Tao, we will deal with them. As for how to make arrangements, I'll arrange a few people to come over later. You can communicate with them, said Night Sorrow. Dark King 9 nodded. She knew that with Night Sorrow's cultivation, the Netherrealm would not be able to resist. Moreover, she had sworn an oath to the heavenly Tao. Even if she didn't, Night Sorrow could kill her in an instant. Following this, Night Sorrow returned to the 9-domain world. He called the people from the commander's residence and told them about the situation in the Netherrealm. The result of their discussion was that Shang Luo and Heavenly Underworld Saint would take turns to guard the Netherrealm. Lu Qin and Jun Xuanji would also take turns to register the new saints in the Netherrealm. They did not need to care about those who had sworn an oath to the heavenly Tao. If anyone escaped, they would kill them. Zhao Fu brought the 4 of them to Nether City and introduced them to Dark King 9. Dark King 9 then told her current assistant, a high-level saint, to take care of this. Dark King 9, I plan to go to the Nether Abyss, Night Sorrow said. That won't do. It's true that I've submitted, but you can't go and destroy the source of the Netherrealm. Dark King 9 was a bit agitated. I'm not going for the source. I need other cultivation resources, Night Sorrow said. Speak. Fourth Watch. Chapter 942. Night Sorrow needed the Life Spirit Elixir to cultivate the Myriad Tao Tome. He didn't have much Life Spirit Elixir left, so he needed to get more. But a place with Death Essence had a high chance of having Life Essence. Even if there wasn't any Life Essence, there would still be Life Spirit Elixir. Seeing that 9 Underworld King Zhu Jiuyun was a bit agitated, Night Sorrow told him the reason. If you promise not to harm the Netherrealm's essence, I can take you there, said Zhu Jiuyun after hearing Night Sorrow's words. All right, I definitely won't harm the Netherrealm's essence. Also, take care of it and come with me. Your cultivation base isn't high enough. You need to quickly grow stronger, said Night Sorrow. Can I grow as fast as you? Zhu Jiuyun looked at Night Sorrow. Genuine QA. Even if it's a bit slower, it won't be much slower. All right, let's go to the Nether Abyss first. I don't even know if I can go down, said Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow and 9 Underworld King Zhu Jiuyun arrived at the Nether Abyss. How much do you know about the Nether Abyss? Asked Night Sorrow as he looked at the Nether Abyss. I can confirm that the Netherrealm's essence is down there. But because the death energy is too berserk, I can't get close. I feel like I'm still very far away, said Zhu Jiuyun to Night Sorrow. Then lead the way. We'll head down. Also, don't resist my soul power. If you consume too much energy, I'll bring you to a special spatial treasure to recover, Yishan said, looking at Zhu Jiuyun. Night Sorrow had long since wanted to go to the Nether Abyss to find Life Spirit Elixir. That was why he had brought the Spacetime Pagoda with him. Take it easy. If you go too far, the Netherrealm's origin won't come back. It will hurt both the Netherrealm and the Netherrealm. Yishang threw 2 jade jars to Zhu Jiuyun. When they left the Spacetime Pagoda, Night Sorrow didn't hold back and also filled 2 jars with Death Spirit Elixir for Zhu Jiuyun. This made Zhu Jiuyun a little unhappy because Night Sorrow did not have the death attribute. After that, Night Sorrow flew up with Zhu Jiuyun. After flying for a while, Night Sorrow felt that the Netherrealm's origin had returned to the same place. Above the nether dark abyss, Zhu Jiuyun looked at Night Sorrow and said, "You don't have the death attribute. What's the use of the death spirit liquid? You're too greedy." "I don't need it, but I have brothers who do. I didn't harm the netherworld origin either. It's gone back now." Night Sorrow was in a great mood. Because the nether realm source was mature and had existed for many years, there was also a lot of life essence accompanying it. It was more than what Night Sorrow had obtained in the past. Say. Chapter 943. The amount of life spirit liquid that Night Sorrow had collected was more than the sum of all the life spirit liquid he had collected. Even if you cultivated in that spatial treasure, the spiritual energy there shouldn't have increased your cultivation so quickly, right? Zhu Jiuyun asked. "You only know part of it. The most important thing is that when I cultivate in there, time is 20 times faster. 20 years of cultivation is equivalent to 1 year outside. Is that okay?" Night Sorrow asked. 20 times faster? Zhu Jiuyun looked at Night Sorrow in surprise. "Yes, but the consumption of spiritual stones is shocking. If you want to enjoy 20 times faster, bring your own spiritual stones," Night Sorrow said. "Okay. I have accumulated spiritual stones for many years. Back then, before I became a sage king, they were all accumulated and not consumed," Zhu Jiuyun said to Night Sorrow. 1 year faster is equivalent to 1 year in the real world. For you to cultivate for 20 years, you will need 300 top-grade spiritual stones," Night Sorrow said. "Are you robbing me? Do I only have 300 top-grade spiritual stones? That's only enough for 1 year?" Zhu Jiuyun said agitatedly. "That's true. But I am also cultivating, so I'll take half of it." "Give me how many top-grade spiritual stones you have," Night Sorrow said to Zhu Jiuyun. "I have less than 500. Zhu Jiuyun looked at Night Sorrow and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Okay, just throw them on the ground. When I cultivate, I will bring you along," Night Sorrow said. Zhu Jiuyun threw 500 top-grade spiritual stones on the ground. It was almost all of her wealth. "Your horns are a little weird. They are really ugly," Night Sorrow said after taking the spiritual stones. "What do you know? The horns of the netherworld race are a symbol of their cultivation achievements. It is also an honor. The bigger the horns, the stronger they are." Zhu Jiuyun was very unhappy that Night Sorrow did not like her horns. "You will follow me to the 9-domain world to cultivate. This is very unusual. But since it is the pride of the netherworld race, I will not talk about it." Night Sorrow nodded. Horns were the pride of the netherworld race. Night Sorrow would not look down on Zhu Jiuyun because of this. "If it's not convenient for you, I can take it back." Zhu Jiuyun thought for a moment before retracting his horns into his golden hair. "All right, let's go. We'll go to the City Lord's mansion to take a look. When your clone is fully formed, we'll go to the 9 regions world," Night Sorrow said. Zhu Jiuyun, who had retracted her horns, had changed her temperament and aura. She was wearing a golden skirt and a half-body battlesuit. She looked arrogant but not ferocious. After arriving at the City Lord's mansion, Night Sorrow asked Shang Luo, Heavenly Underworld Saint, Jun Xuanji, and Lu Qin, and learned that everything had gone smoothly. "Then I'll remove the formation later. That way, it'll be easier for you to travel back and forth," Night Sorrow said. "This is risky. If the nether beasts from the nether realm enter the 9 regions world, it will be troublesome," Jun Xuanji said. "They can't enter. The laws of the 9 regions world have been partially completed. The beings from the nether realm have no chance of entering the supreme river space and the 9 regions world," Night Sorrow said. This was an ability he had gained after the sky-sealing Great Hall and the void fiendish space merged. After that, Night Sorrow cultivated in the City Lord's mansion in the nether realm. Zhu Jiuyun followed Jun Xuanji and the others to handle matters. Yi Shang cultivated for 3 months, which was equivalent to 5 days in the real world. When he came out to get some fresh air and was hungry, Zhu Jiuyun told him that her doppelganger had already reached large success. She did not need to deal with the matters here with her real body. She could cultivate with Yi Shang. Nodding, Night Sorrow communicated with Jun Xuanji and the others. After leaving behind a messaging crystal, Night Sorrow brought Zhu Jiuyun to the spatial tunnel. Zhu Jiuyun could not enter the supreme river space. However, Night Sorrow released the 9 regions world's origin energy and enveloped her to enter the supreme river space. After that, they came out of the spatial tunnel in the Medicine Valley and arrived at the 9 regions world. This is the 9 regions world. You can enter my spatial sacred treasure to cultivate. After I return, I will also enter to cultivate, Night Sorrow said and put Zhu Jiuyun into the space-time pagoda before teleporting back to the city in the sky. After meeting his parents and having tea with his 3 wives and Xue Shi, Night Sorrow placed the space-time pagoda beside the lake. This way, anyone who wanted to cultivate could enter and leave freely. After that, Night Sorrow entered the 10th level of the space-time pagoda. Seeing Night Sorrow enter, Zhu Jiuyun opened her eyes. This place is indeed not bad. Continue cultivating. The time acceleration is now 20 times. Call me if you need anything. Don't cultivate too hard and cause your cultivation to become unstable, Night Sorrow reminded Zhu Jiuyun. In terms of cultivation speed and cultivation, I am inferior to you. However, in terms of experience you are inferior. After saying that, Zhu Jiuyun closed her eyes and began cultivating. Night Sorrow glanced at Zhu Jiuyun before sitting down to cultivate as well. He knew that Zhu Jiuyun's words were unpleasant to the ears. However, it was the truth. After cultivating in the space-time pagoda for 5 years, both of them opened their eyes. If they continued to cultivate, their cultivation would become unstable. I am going out to consolidate my cultivation. What about you? Zhu Jiuyun looked at Night Sorrow and asked, how are you going to consolidate your cultivation? Night Sorrow asked, I am going to cultivate my combat skills. I will exhaust my cultivation and then recover it before exhausting it again. Zhu Jiuyun explained her method of consolidating her cultivation. Then there is no need to go out. Just attack me. If you exhaust your cultivation, I will exhaust my cultivation as well, Night Sorrow said to Zhu Jiuyun. Don't say that I am intentionally hurting you. Zhu Jiuyun took out her scimitar and slashed at Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow stood there and used his qi to protect himself. Once his qi was exhausted, he would use his innate bloodline energy to protect himself. Then, he would use the myriad Dao Tomes energy to protect himself. When Zhu Jiuyun had no more energy left, Night Sorrow's energy was also almost exhausted. Defending without attacking at all consumed a lot of energy. You're good. You're ruthless enough. Zhu Jiuyun panted as she continued to cultivate. She had suffered a huge blow because the results of this trial showed that even if Yishang stood still, she would not be able to kill him. After the 2 of them recovered, they continued to exhaust their cultivation. After 3 months of tempering, the 2 of them felt that it was about time. They continued to cultivate. However, every once in a while, Night Sorrow would go to the space-time pagoda to accompany his 3 wives and Xue Shi. He would also accompany his parents. Sometimes, he would even look for Wu Lingfei to drink tea. The days passed as he cultivated. What made Night Sorrow regretful was that he still did not have a child. However, there was nothing he could do about it. He could only let nature take its course. Zhu Jiuyun also enjoyed this feeling because the increase in her cultivation was very obvious. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed in the real world. Night Sorrow and Zhu Jiuyun's cultivation had increased a lot. After cultivating in the space-time pagoda for dozens of years, Night Sorrow's cultivation was already a 6-star Saint King and was approaching 7-star Saint King. Zhu Jiuyun was also not far from 3-star Saint King. When he came out of the space-time pagoda again, Night Sorrow received a piece of good news. Long Xiansheng and Xianwen Xiao had both entered the Saint King realm. This was great news. Night Sorrow checked and found that no one was in seclusion to break through. He then shook the space-time pagoda and returned to the top floor. Zhu Jiuyun, 2 Saint Kings have appeared in our 9 regions world. There will be a celebration. You should join in and let everyone get to know each other. Only 4 BY version Z. The rest are pirated versions. Speak. Chapter 944. I only acknowledge you. Although I don't want to admit it, I'm only submitting to you. It has nothing to do with anyone else, said Zhu Jiuyun. I know you don't want to face some things, but no one will look down on you. They will all respect you. I promise you, said Night Sorrow. But I'm still the loser. Also, I want to know why you're treating me so courteously. Zhu Jiuyun looked at Night Sorrow and asked the question that had always been in her heart. Zhu Jiuyun had been thinking about this question for the past few days. Since she couldn't figure it out, she decided to ask. Night Sorrow took out a tea set and brewed a pot of tea. Because the 9 regions world will face a great calamity in a few decades. I might not be able to handle it alone, so I need your help. Also, I'm treating you so courteously because I want the underworld to be stable and there won't be any more wars in the future. Since I've submitted and enjoyed the treatment of your space-time pagoda, I'll help if there's a battle. Zhu Jiuyun nodded. She admired Night Sorrow's honesty. Let's go out. Don't mess around. I'll treat you as a friend, said Night Sorrow. Zhu Jiuyun nodded. She could feel Night Sorrow's sincerity. After leaving the space-time pagoda, Night Sorrow brought Zhu Jiuyun to his residence. He then introduced her to his grandfather and parents, as well as Xue Shi, Wu Lingfei, and his 3 wives. She was his friend. Everyone knew who Zhu Jiuyun was, but since Night Sorrow introduced her as a friend, everyone treated her with respect. Grandfather went to ask just now. The arrangements for the celebration will be handled by Deputy Grand Elder and Deputy Yun Tianlong. They'll be held in Taiqing City, said Yilinghuan. When? Asked Night Sorrow. Someone will inform you in 3 days, said Yilinghuan. These 3 days were relatively easy for Night Sorrow. Night Sorrow brought his 3 wives, Xue Shi, and Zhu Jiuyun around the 9 domains world. Zhu Jiuyun was a woman of few words, but she was quite touched by the local customs. The 9 domains world was filled with warmth and warmth. This was something that the netherworld couldn't compare to. Even the netherworld at its peak couldn't compare. After arriving at the Saint Hall and greeting a few seniors, Night Sorrow brought the children of the Saint Hall to eat and drink in Dongxian City. However, no one charged them. The shop owner even laughed, which touched Zhu Jiuyun even more. What's wrong? The food here doesn't suit your appetite, Night Sorrow asked when he saw that Zhu Jiuyun was distracted. No, the people here are indeed simple and honest. In comparison, the people in the Netherrealm are more ferocious. However, they lack a sense of humanity. Zhu Jiuyun did not hide his thoughts. He only spoke of his feelings. This is the world I want to protect. As long as I have the ability, I won't let this simple and honest world be hurt, said Night Sorrow. Zhu Jiuyun nodded. She understood why Night Sorrow was cultivating so hard. It was because he wanted to protect. This was the power of protection. Then, Night Sorrow brought them to Taiqing City. He let them rest in the mansion that he rarely stayed in. Night Sorrow drank tea and pondered. What are you thinking about? Aoi sat opposite Night Sorrow. I'm thinking about how confident we are in surviving the great massacre that happens once every 10,000 years. I think our chances are much higher, said Night Sorrow. Yes, let nature take its course. You don't have to worry too much. Aoi looked at Night Sorrow with some heartache. Don't cultivate too hard. Take it slow. Night Sorrow looked at Aoi, who was already a high-level venerable, and said, I know. 9th junior sister, Chu Yu, and I are working hard to cultivate so that we can accompany you. We might not be able to help you in battle, but when you turn back, we will always be by your side, Qingji said. I understand. Yi Shang's heart felt warm because his 3 wives were very understanding of him. They all knew what he wanted. The celebration of the 2 Saint Kings was very grand. After attending, Night Sorrow returned to Sky City with Long Shensheng and Xianwen Xiao. He told Xiao Kong that the 2 of them could enter the 79th floor of the Space-Time Treasure Pagoda at any time. After entering the Saint King realm, one could enter the 10th floor. However, he was currently cultivating on the 10th floor, so it was not suitable for others to enter. The main reason was that he and Zhu Jiuyun were constantly tempering and consolidating their cultivation. It would be a bother to others. After knowing that there was a 9-fold time acceleration effect, Long Xianxing and Xianwen Xiao were very excited. Xianwen Xiao still had some savings. He gave Night Sorrow a few hundred top-grade spirit stones. Everyone knew that the space-time treasure pagoda was made of spirit stones. After that, Night Sorrow relaxed for another 2 days. Then, he entered the space-time treasure pagoda to cultivate. He planned to enter the high-level Saint King realm as soon as possible. This way his strength would increase. In the 9 regions world, he would have the ability to fight against a peak Saint King. According to the 9 regions world's origin chi, when the 9 regions world's laws were perfected, it would be able to prevent anyone from entering the mysterious sky world. In other words, in the Great Massacre Calamity, the strongest opponent that Knight Sorrow would have to face was a peak saint. According to this theory, if Knight Sorrow entered the high-level Saint King realm, it would mean that he would have the ability to protect himself. Zhu Zhuyun was also working very hard. Back then, her cultivation was much higher than Knight Sorrow's. But now, not only had Knight Sorrow caught up with her, he had even surpassed her. She could not even see his cultivation clearly. This made her a little anxious. Forever exempt FYC in less than 5 years' time, both of them had advanced. Knight Sorrow had entered the 7-star Saint King realm while Zhu Zhuyun was also a 3-star Saint King. After entering the 3-star Saint King realm, she still could not see Knight Sorrow's cultivation. Zhu Zhuyun said, "High-level Saint King. Before you advanced, I had just entered the 7-star Saint King realm," Knight Sorrow said. "Do you have to work so hard?" Zhu Zhuyun asked. "As for that, having more strength means more stability. The Great Massacre Calamity that occurs once every 10,000 years is very scary. It's a disaster. Saint crystals are harvested as materials. You can imagine the tragic situation. I don't want to see that kind of scene," Knight Sorrow said. At the same time, he also told Zhu Zhuyun about the Great Massacre Calamity that occurred once every 10,000 years. There are still a few decades in the real world. Based on your current speed, you should have no problem entering the peak Saint King realm. You should be able to block it, Zhu Zhuyun said. If one expert descends, I will block 2 experts. What if there are more? So you have to work hard and cultivate as well. When the time comes, help me fight once, Knight Sorrow said. Do I have the right to say no? According to what you said, through the Wuxia world, we can enter the mysterious heaven world. When the time comes, can you think of a way to send me into the Wuxia world? I want to take a look, Zhu Zhuyun said. Didn't I tell you that there are world masters there? Knight Sorrow said with a frown. I want to take a look around, Zhu Zhuyun said. Let's talk about it when I want to take a look around, Knight Sorrow said and continued to meditate to stabilize his cultivation. Speak. Chapter 945. Seeing that Knight Sorrow was stabilizing his cultivation, Zhu Zhuyun did not say anything and went to meditate to stabilize his cultivation. After stabilizing his cultivation base for a month, Knight Sorrow stood up, shook his neck, and stretched his waist. The explosion that came from Knight Sorrow's body made Zhu Zhuyun open his eyes. What are you doing? How can you let him cultivate in peace? Zhu Zhuyun said as he looked at Knight Sorrow. All right, it's about time. Let's go out for a walk. After saying that, Knight Sorrow wrapped Zhu Zhuyun with his energy and exited the space-time treasure pagoda. I haven't thought about going out yet. Are you worried that I will surpass you if I keep cultivating? Zhu Zhuyun asked Knight Sorrow. You're thinking too much. Can you do it? Let's go around and have a look. After saying that, Knight Sorrow and Zhu Zhuyun began to teleport. First, they went to the Night Moon Dynasty's region. Then, they went to the various regions before finally arriving at the Western Nether region. This is the Western Nether region that suffered from the flames of war back then. It's not bad now, right? Actually, you can be more humane in the management of the Nether realm, Knight Sorrow said as he looked around Western Nether City. When I came here, my avatar used this method to manage things. Isn't your avatar in the Nether realm? Didn't you see it? Zhu Zhuyun asked. I'm in the Nether realm, but I've been researching battle skills, movement techniques, and combat skills. I didn't go to check out the situation in the Nether realm, Knight Sorrow said. P initial B. So you were just bluffing when you said that you would patrol the Nether realm and kill saints who didn't swear an oath, Zhu Zhuyun said. Knight Sorrow glanced at Zhu Zhuyun and said, just take care of it. Do you think I'm a murderous person? After that, Knight Sorrow went to the Profound Mysteries realm to take a look. The Profound Mysteries realm had developed very quickly over the past decade or so. It could be said that it had returned to its previous state before the war, but it had also surpassed it. Not bad, right? With a united heart, we can overcome any obstacle, Knight Sorrow said. Zhu Zhuyun nodded. She knew that Knight Sorrow was right. Everyone in the 9-domain world and the Profound Mysteries realm were united. Therefore it was peaceful wherever they went. After walking around, Knight Sorrow arrived at the Templar Hall. He practiced his spear arts in front of the practice field, while the members of the Templar Hall followed behind Knight Sorrow. The unity of man and spear is the foundation of the unity of heaven and earth. It is also a shortcut to the realm of cultivation. Remember, man is the spear and the spear is man. It is an extension of your body. Knight Sorrow demonstrated his spear art while talking about his past insights. After cultivating for a while and everyone rested, Yin Yan walked over to Knight Sorrow's side and brewed a pot of tea for him. Brother, if you have time, come over more often. My companions and I miss you a lot. It's not that I don't want to come. It's just that I have a lot of things to do. I have to use this time to cultivate. How have you been? Asked Knight Sorrow. Very good. Other than cultivating, we're going out to train. We often go to the Supreme River Domain and the Wasteland to train our combat strength. I've already awakened my 5th bloodline energy. Once I reach the Venerable Realm, I'll be able to use spatial tears, said Yin Yan. Ning Yun, do you have any problems? Knight Sorrow nodded to Yin Yan before looking at Ning Yun. I'm fine. Everything is going very smoothly. Ning Yun nodded. What about you, Chiue? Tell uncle if you have any problems. Knight Sorrow looked at Chiue. Thank you for your concern. I'm fine. Chiue nodded. Although she was already an adult and a mid-5th rank cultivator, she still treated herself as the little girl from back then. She still enjoyed Knight Sorrow's concern. If you have any problems, just tell uncle. Also, the first batch of children aren't young anymore. If you have someone you like and want to start a family, just tell uncle. I'll take care of it for you. Knight Sorrow nodded to Chiue. Uncle, you've worried about us quite a bit over the years. We're very grateful. Chiue bowed slightly. Chiue, from the day you came to the Sacred Hall, you were all my family. Knight Sorrow sighed. In response to Knight Sorrow, all the Sacred Hall's disciples bowed. You've all grown up. As your uncle, I'm very gratified. No matter where you go in the future, remember that the Sacred Hall is your home. Remember that uncle is your family. Knight Sorrow looked at the group of children and said. Following that, Knight Sorrow once again brought the group of children to Dongxian City to eat and drink. The restaurant still didn't accept money, but Knight Sorrow knew that the steward of the Sacred Hall would settle the bill. Although the commoners of Dongxian City didn't mind, the Sacred Hall still had its principles. Knight Sorrow brought Zhu Jiuyun back to the Medicine Valley's bamboo forest peak to make tea and rest. Zhu Jiuyun kept thinking. With such a group of children who respect and understand you, you do have a reason to fight for them to the end. Zhu Jiuyun said. I hope the Netherrealm will be the same in the future. Knight Sorrow said. Then why didn't you say that the Sacred Hall will accept children from the Netherrealm? Zhu Jiuyun asked. It's not the same. The Netherrealm is different from the Profound Mysteries Realm. The Profound Mysteries Realm has submitted to the 9-domain world. When we deal with our relationship, we treat it as an alliance and give it enough respect. Because of this relationship, the Profound Mysteries Realm is equivalent to a subsidiary world of the 9-domain world. Both sides can freely pass through the spatial passageway. Knight Sorrow said. The Netherrealm's current development is facing all kinds of difficulties. Can we also take the same path as the Profound Mysteries Realm? Zhu Jiuyun asked. There are many problems in the process. We need the entire world to submit. Only then will the people of the Netherrealm be able to freely enter and leave the 9-domain world, Knight Sorrow said. It's just a formality. The price to pay for sticking to this formality is that the Netherrealm will live a miserable and desolate life. Besides, what's the difference between submission and submission? If I submit, saints will have to swear an oath to the heavenly Tao. In fact, it's no different from being ruled by the 9-domain world, Zhu Jiuyun said. Then on your clone's side, tell the upper echelons of the Netherrealm that the 9-domain world's commander's residence will draft the treaty. Then, both sides will sit together and discuss it, Knight Sorrow said. After resting for a night, Knight Sorrow went to the commander's residence and asked Yun Tianlong to call the upper echelons of the commander's residence back. With the messaging crystal and teleportation array, the commander's residence's people gathered very quickly. Now, let's talk about the Netherrealm. The Netherrealm can develop in the same way as the Profound Mysteries Realm. Now, Uncle Master, you can draft the terms of the alliance. Other than the stipulation that the nether beasts cannot enter the 9-domain world, everything else is the same as the Profound Mysteries realm. Knight Sorrow directly expressed his attitude. Knight Sorrow's attitude was actually a decision. At this time, Knight Sorrow was a high-level Saint King. Whether it was in terms of prestige or personal strength, he stood at the top of the 9-domain world. Tai Shu Yen held a pen and paper. As she communicated with everyone, she drafted the terms. Elder June, gather more people from the Profound Mysteries realm and help rebuild the Nether realm. Remember, restrain the Nether beasts. Knight Sorrow said the last sentence to Zhu Jiuyun. Speak. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.